The wind is absolutely howling across these desolate plains, sounding like 1,000 ghosts screaming at once. And right in the middle of this frozen wasteland stands a building with a roof the color of dried blood, looking like a literal scab on the skin of the world. Inside, it's a whole different vibe. The air is thick with the smell of roasted meat, stale ale, and men who definitely haven't seen a shower since the war started. 2 mercenaries are huddled in a corner booth, whispering about a literal urban legend. The crazy guy, this absolute madman, is running through battlefields like he's playing a game with no respawns, throwing himself into the thickest slaughter, just to see if a blade can actually take him down. But the creepiest part? Every time he survives a fatal wound, he just looks at his hands and spits out, "Damn it, I live again." Bro literally has the worst luck at dying. Rumor has it he's not even in it for the gold. He's a fallen prince seeking a grave. Fast forward miles away into the freezing dark, and the rumors are bleeding in the snow. Our main man, Yuri Briel, is lying in the freezing powder, his breath coming in ragged hitches. He's done, spent, but standing over him is a literal nightmare in black plate armor, the ghost of the battlefield. And then the ghost speaks, and it's a voice from the grave. Lord Flandret, or what's left of him, looks down at Yuri with pure disappointment, calling him out by his full title, Yuri Briole, the 3rd Prince of Briole. The very name is a curse. It's the name of the man who traded his crown for a blood-stained sword and watched his kingdom burn. Suddenly, the trauma hits him like a freight train, dragging him back to when life was actually good. 10 years ago, 18-year-old Yuri was a straight-up menace at the gambling dens, clean-shaven, handsome, and absolutely styling on everyone at the poker table. His court mage, Renando, is sweating bullets, trying to get him to leave for a royal council meeting. But Yuri is busy doubling the stakes. Of course, some local thugs think he's scamming and decide to pick a fight. They start trashing his family name, saying the princes are just pampered kids who play with swords. Big mistake. Huge. Yuri doesn't even reach for a blade. He vaults over the table and delivers a world-class beatdown. With his bare hands, he tells them straight up, "I'm Yuri Briel, and you're about to be reborn by my hands." Talk about an educational experience. But even princes have their down-bad moments. Later that night, Yuri is frantically apologizing to Princess Yekaterina of the Empire. He's late for their secret moonlit date because his father called an urgent meeting. He tries to smooth things over by mentioning secret military movements. Pro tip, don't leak state secrets to your girlfriend. But Yekaterina isn't having it. She pulls off the blue jewel necklace he gave her, throws it at his chest, and hits him with the classic, "Don't call me until I call you." Shh. Little did he know, a shadow spy was watching from the arches. That one argument, it was the beginning of the end. The political tension snaps like a dry twig. The Empire stops playing nice and goes full invasion mode. Yuri wakes up to the sound of bells and the smell of his city turning into an ashtray. He goes from gambling prince to commander of a dying hope in seconds. But the real kicker? His father, the strongest man on the continent, Fiore Briel, vanishes right when he's needed most. Yuri realizes the timing is too perfect. He remembers the carrier pigeon he sent Yekaterina. The betrayal hits harder than any sword. She was the only one who knew his father's schedule. She sends him a note that just says Sora? Yeah, sorry for the genocide, I guess. The final defense is a literal hellscape. Yuri is slashing through infantry with blue energy arcs, but he's surrounded. Just as a lethal blow is about to end him, his most loyal knight, Laurent, takes the hit instead. Laurent's last words are a plea for Yuri to survive and rebuild, while the rest of the knights hold the line to let him escape. Yuri runs into the darkness, hiding in a shed like a coward, while his friends are butchered. That guilt, it's been eating him alive for years, turning him into the suicidal mercenary we saw at the start. Back in the present, the Ghost Knight, who is actually the vengeful spirit of Laurent, isn't here to save him this time. He's here to judge him. He screams that it's all Yuri's fault, that the kingdom fell and the Flandret house was disgraced. He lunges, impaling Yuri with a blade of dark energy. As the cold steel pierces his chest, Yuri finally thinks he's getting the peace of death he's been chasing. He looks at that blue necklace one last time, feeling the crushing weight of his sins, as the world fades to black. But then, a booming voice echoes in the void, his father's voice reminding him that Briel's successors never abandon honor. Yuri's eyes snap open, and he isn't in the snow. He isn't bleeding. He's looking at his hands. They're small. He's in a silken bed in his old room at the palace, safe and sound. The war, the betrayal, the years of slaughter, it hasn't happened yet. Our boy just hit the ultimate cosmic reset button, and this time he's got a lifetime of regrets to settle. The weight of existence hits Yuri like a lead anchor, dragging him out of the dark ocean of death and straight back into reality. His eyes feel like they've been glued shut, and his throat is drier than a desert. But as the light finally breaks through, he isn't seeing the charred remains of a kingdom. He's seeing gold, silk, and the ornate ceiling of the Briol Palace. And then he hears a voice that should be buried 6 feet under. It's King Fiore Briol, his father, looking absolutely done with Yuri's 3-day nap. Bro is standing there in his gold-trimmed military fit, looking every bit the sovereign, while Yuri is just frozen, heart hammering like he's seeing a ghost. Because in his head he is. Yuri sits up so fast he almost catches whiplash. He looks at his hands, no scars, no calluses, just smooth, royal skin. He whispers, "Father," like he's seeing a miracle. But his cynical, war-torn brain instantly jumps to the worst possible conclusion. He remembers the fire. He remembers the betrayal. He remembers seeing his father's lifeless body on the throne. So, looking at his very much alive dad, our boy just sighs and drops the line of the century. "So, you ended up in hell after all." He actually looks his dad in the eye and tells him that for a guy who preached honor, he sure lived a decadent life to end up in the pits of damnation with a sinner like him. Fiore is absolutely baffled. He goes from worried father to, "I'm about to restart your life real quick." Before Yuri can even process the logic of the afterlife, Fiore delivers a world-class reality check slap. The sound cracks through the room like a gunshot. Yuri's head spins, his cheek is on fire, and he's shouting back about how his dad still hasn't fixed his hitting habit even in hell. But as the echoes die down, Yuri looks out the window. He sees a green leaf dancing in the breeze. He sees the palace gardens, the fountains, and maids laughing in the sun. No demons, no hellfire, just peace. Then, his brothers walk in the first and second princes, looking healthy and completely unmurdered. That's when it clicks. This isn't hell. It's not a dream. The cosmic hourglass just got flipped. Our boy Yuri Briol just hit the ultimate 1UP and regressed back to the spring of his 13th year. He's got his family back, his home back, and a whole lifetime of combat experience packed into a teenage body. Fast forward a few days, and Yuri is ready to test the limits of this new life. He wakes up to Ina, his personal maid, who he last saw lying in a pool of blood in his previous life. To make sure this isn't some cruel hallucination, he literally begs her to slap him. She thinks he's lost his mind. But after he insists, she delivers a whack. That confirms one thing. Yeah, he's definitely alive. And Ina is way stronger than she looks. Next up, the training grounds. Yuri is standing across from Bernard, the royal instructor. Back in the day, Yuri was a lazy brat who wasted his talent, and Bernard had basically given up, turning their sessions into lazy spars. But not today. Yuri looks Bernard dead in the eye and tells him to teach him properly. He's not playing games anymore. Bernard senses the shift, the air gets heavy, the vibe gets lethal. Suddenly, the instructor isn't just a teacher. He's the sword demon again. A massive blue aura erupts from Bernard, flickering like cerulean flames as he taps into his mana. It's a complete blur of violence. Bernard moves like a lightning strike, swinging with enough force to shatter bones. But Yuri isn't the 13-year-old kid Bernard remembers. He's a veteran mercenary in a child's body. He parries, he weaves, he dances through the strikes. His muscles screaming but his instincts on autopilot. When the dust settles, Yuri is collapsed on the floor, lungs burning, but he's smiling. He's going to get strong fast. Even Bernard is shook, wondering how the hell the prince just blocked every single one of his professional grade attacks. But the peace is short-lived. Aina comes running in, frantic, saying the king wants him because Count Johannes is here with his son. The second Yuri hears that name, his blood turns to ice. In his past life, that son was the rat who opened the gates and let the empire burn everything to the ground. The traitor, the snake, Got Barkvar. Yuri's face goes dark, a murderous white light flickering in his eyes as he stands up. The training is over. The hunt for the man who ruined his life has just begun. "Where?" Yuri whispers, his voice sounding like it's coming from the bottom of a grave. "Is that bastard right now?" The silverware is clinking. The steak is juicy. But the vibes? Absolute garbage. We're at the royal dinner table and the air is so thick with tension. You'd need a legendary grade sword just to cut through it. On one side, you've got King Fiore looking like a literal block of ice. And on the other, the Barkvar family. Leading them is Count Johannes, a man who wears a suit like a second skin and a smile that's about as genuine as a $3 bill. But the real star of the show? Our boy Yuri. He's sitting there eating with a terrifying mechanical calm. No more gambling. No more wasting time. He's moving like a predator that's already calculated the exact number of bites it takes to finish a meal. The servants are losing their minds. They're looking at him like, wait, is this the same royal brat who used to blow the treasury on dice games? Count Johannes tries to be slick, complimenting Yuri's new physique and fishing for the secret to his glow-up. King Fiore doesn't even look up from his steak. He just drops a line colder than a winter in the north. "It seems my son has eaten something wrong. Ouch! That's royal speak for my son's gone crazy. Leave it alone." Johannes tries to laugh it off. Gesturing to his own son, Got Barkvar. Now look at Got purple hair, stiff suit, and looking like he's about to have a panic attack. While the adults play their political chess, Yuri is busy staring a literal hole through Got's head. This isn't just a glare, it's a 5D chess judgment from a man who watched this kid open the gates to the Empire in his past life. Got is sweating buckets, wondering why the trash prince is looking at him like he's already on the executioner's block. As the dinner wraps up, Yuri's brother, the second prince, nudges him with a smirk. He thinks it's just some petty drama and asks if that kid did something to him. Yuri doesn't even blink. He just whispers, "Yeah, that bastard stabbed me in the back." Bro is literally speaking facts, but his brother just thinks he's being dramatic. But Yuri is seeing ghosts. He's seeing the castle in flames and the smell of blood. He looks at Got's retreating back and decides right then and there. The snake gets the boot before it can even grow fangs. Fast forward to the gardens, and it's time for a reality check. Yuri finds Got and tosses him a wooden staff like he's throwing out the trash. "I heard you're decent with a sword," Yuri says, but his tone says, "I'm about to ruin your whole career." Got is confused, trying to talk about the knight's code and honor, but Yuri is not having it. He roars about how the kingdom has no room for narrow-minded weaklings. Before Got can even finish a sentence, boom! Yuri explodes into motion. He's not fighting like a prince. He's fighting like a mercenary who's survived 100 wars. He closes the gap in a blink, and when Got tries to block, Yuri plays dirty. He kicks a cloud of grits straight into the kid's eyes. While Got is sputtering and blinded, Yuri delivers a high-tier kick straight to the jaw. That sounds like a car door slamming shut. Got is on the grass, crying about honor and how Yuri threw away his sword. Yuri just stands over him, looking down with zero mercy. He's not just fighting a kid, he's fighting the traitor who sold his father's honor to the Empire. He points his staff at Got's throat and drops some heavy wisdom about what it actually means to be a noble and a knight. He hauls the broken kid to his feet, basically telling him to fix his mindset or get out of the way. The second prince is watching from the sidelines, clapping like he's at a circus. He calls Yuri the kingdom's biggest troublemaker, but Yuri just gives him the look. He tells his brother to stop messing around too, leaving the older prince wondering if Yuri's brain got swapped during his 3-day nap. But the grind never stops. Later that night, Yuri is at the training grounds, pushing his 13-year-old body until his muscles are screaming for a ceasefire. He's drenched in sweat, leaning on his wooden sword when Bernard the sword demon himself steps out of the shadows. Bernard's impressed. He tells Yuri it's time to learn a mana method. He suggests the Briole method, which is the gold standard for royals. But Yuri's internal monologue is already 10 steps ahead. He's like, "Bro, I mastered that in my last life and it has a ceiling." He's looking for something legendary, something forbidden. He asks Bernard for a recruit with massive potential, and Bernard drops a name, Jared. Yuri's heart skips a beat. He remembers Jared from the end of the war, a blonde-haired kid weeping in the mud, crying about how he wasted his natural talent. In the old timeline, Jared was pathetic, a rusty sword that broke when the world needed it most. But not this time. Yuri spots the young Jared practicing his swings in the courtyard, looking serious but raw. A sharp, predator-like smile spreads across Yuri's face. He's not just building his own power, he's building an army of elites. He steps out into the light, ready to turn this rusty sword into a weapon of mass destruction. Time to knock some sense into the future, one recruit at a time. The sky is looking like a bruised grape, all violet and orange. And Sir Rosso is standing on the balcony like he's posing for an Edgelord of the Year award. His cape is fluttering, his armor is gleaming in the sunset, and he's probably thinking about some deep tactical military stuff, until he hears the heavy thud of boots. Enter our boy, Yuri Briole. He's not even wearing his royal bling. He's just in a simple vest, looking like he's ready to do some light cardio. He gives Rosso a breezy wave like they're old college buddies, and the captain is caught totally off guard. Rosso's like, "Your Highness, what are you doing here?" And Yuri just hits him with a casual, "Just checking if you guys are slackers." Rosso laughs it off. But Yuri's eyes aren't laughing. He's scanning the courtyard like a predator looking for the tastiest snack in the herd. Below them, the recruits are going ham. Wood is smashing against wood. Sweat is flying, and the air is thick with the smell of effort. But Yuri's gaze lands on one specific blonde kid at the edge of the field. That's Jared. In the previous life, this guy was a rusty sword. That broke when it mattered most. And looking at him now, you can see why. While everyone else is pushing their limits, Jared is moving with the energy of a guy who's just trying to survive until the lunch break. He's blocking with zero effort, eyes looking totally bored. Yuri's internal monologue is basically roasting him. So this is how the legend became a paperweight. Yuri turns to Rosso with that terrifyingly calm authority and tells him to grab a wooden sword because it's time for a live demonstration. Rosso's hyped, asking who the lucky victim is, and Yuri just points a finger straight at Jared. "I want the slacker." "Oh, you just know this is about to get spicy." The vibe in the training hall shifts from busy practice to funeral silence real quick. Jared is standing there looking confused, holding his sword like it's a wet noodle, while Yuri looks like he's about to dismantle this man's entire career. Rosso's shouting from the balcony, telling the rookie to stay on his toes, but Yuri is already moving. He's not just attacking, he's testing Jared's foundation. He hits Jared with some heavy wisdom, asking to see what kind of knight he is. Jared tries to step up, thinking he's got this, but Yuri explodes. He's a blur of white and gray, slamming his sword down with enough force to make the whole room vibrate. The swords meet with a crack that sounds like a lightning strike, and the spectators are losing their minds. But here's where it gets 5D chess levels of crazy. Jared starts feeling the pressure, but he notices something weird. No matter how he moves, Yuri is right there. The distance between them isn't changing. Yuri is literally syncing his heartbeat and his rhythm to match Jared's. It's like a deadly dance, and Yuri finds it hilarious. He leans in close, whispering, "Isn't this boring? Let's actually try." And then, boom, Yuri's speed doubles. He's hammering Jared's guard like a jackhammer on steroids. Jared is drowning. He's sweating, he's gasping, and his pride is taking a massive L in front of everyone. He realizes Yuri isn't just some royal brat. He's a seasoned warrior in a 13-year-old's body. Jared finally snaps, throwing a counterattack with everything he's got. But Yuri just laughs. He's getting pushed back, his muscles are screaming, but he's loving every second of the struggle. Then, things go from a spar to a crime scene. Jared gets tilted like, majorly tilted. He forgets the rules, he forgets the prince's status, and he pulls out the forbidden move, a mana method. His wooden sword starts glowing with a blue supernatural light, and Rosso is screaming from the balcony like, "Jared, stop! You're gonna kill the prince!" But Jared is in a mana-induced trance, eyes glowing blue, and he swings. A wave of raw energy slices through the air, shearing off a lock of Yuri's hair and opening a bloody cut right across the prince's forehead. The room goes dead silent. You could hear a pin drop on a pillow. Jared snaps out of it, looking at his smoking, charred sword and his bloody prince, realizing he basically just signed his own execution warrant. But Yuri? He doesn't call the guards. He doesn't even look mad. He just wipes the blood off his face with a chillingly steady hand. He pulls a cloth from his pocket, ties it around his head like a battle-worn headband, and looks at Jared with eyes that are literally glowing with madness and joy. "Pick up your sword," Yuri says, and his voice is deep enough to rattle your bones. He's not hurt, he's energized. He launches himself back into the fray, moving with a jagged, unstoppable momentum that ignores the laws of physics. He's dancing around Jared, striking from angles that shouldn't exist, laughing like a maniac because the real fight finally started. Jared is backed into a corner, his guard shattering under the weight of Yuri's relentless, soul-crushing pressure. As Jared goes down, he realizes the terrifying truth. He didn't just meet a prince today. He met a monster who's going to drag him to the top, whether he likes it or not. The air in the training hall is literally vibrating, with the scent of ozone and the heavy clang of steel. It's like someone turned the intensity up to 11. Yuri Brioli, our dark-haired prince, looks like he's been through a blender. Sweat, grime, and absolute focus. On the other side, Jared is decked out in obsidian armor. That looks like it belongs on a raid boss, but he's the one who's actually struggling to keep his composure. Every swing Yuri makes isn't just an attack. It's a terrifyingly precise calculation. Jared is a seasoned veteran who's fought actual monsters, but right now his heart is drumming against his ribs, like it's trying to escape. He can feel the heat coming off Yuri, not just physical heat, but a psychological pressure that's straight up suffocating. Jared's face is a mask of pure frustration, because he's being pushed to his absolute limit by a kid who's supposed to be worrying about royal balls and etiquette. Talk about a reality check. The speed of their blades increases until they're just blurs of white and black against the stone. Jared's thinking, yo, I've fought people way stronger than me, but this is different. There's an obsession in Yuri's eyes that's bordering on supernatural. He's not just mimicking forms. He's surgically deconstructing Jared's defense. Yuri is moving with the grace of a predator, and honestly, Jared is starting to see the potential for a king or maybe a tyrant blooming right in front of him. Suddenly, the silence of the hall is shattered by a violent crack as Yuri lunges forward. He's coiled like a spring, throwing his entire soul into one final devastating strike. The light catches his blade like silver lightning, and Jared realizes he can't hold back anymore. He taps into those hidden reserves, channeling a burst of blue mana into his sword that crackles like a thunderstorm. They collide with a sound like a clap of thunder, and for a split second, time just stops. It's a perfect yin-yang of white tunic versus dark armor. Jared lets out a roar, his teeth bared in a snarl, trying to use his raw weight to crush the prince. He swings with everything he's got to shatter Yuri's guard, but Yuri doesn't back down. He meets that energy head-on, and the pressure becomes too much for mere mortal metal to handle. Crack! Yuri's sword shatters into a dozen shimmering shards that spin through the air like lethal glass. The momentum sends Yuri skidding across the stone floor, while Jared stays locked in a low stance, breathing like a freight train, unable to believe it's actually over. Yuri hits the ground, but the predator eyes are gone. He just lets out a long, exhausted phew, looking at his broken hilt with a weary smile. He's a total mess, hair wild, bandages peeling, but he looks like the real winner here. He stands up, looks at Jared, and gives him a genuine, boyish smile. It's over. Jared is just standing there, mouth agape, his mana flickering out into the shadows. The anger is gone, replaced by respect that's almost like reverence. Yuri walks over, the debris crunching under his boots, and offers a hand. I learned something from you, Jared. No royal fluff, just facts. Jared stammers out a great work, realizing he's not looking at a student anymore. He's looking at a warrior who doesn't even know how to spell the word defeat. Then, in true Yuri fashion, the mood shifts in a heartbeat. He looks at his hand, sees a tiny smear of blood from a sword shard, and hits Jared with the ultimate guilt trip. You made the prince bleed. Are you just gonna stand there? Jared's face goes pale enough to match the windows. He panics and practically bolts toward the infirmary, armor clanking all the way. Yuri just shakes his head, watching his new recruit run away, before collapsing back onto the cool floor. He's pushed himself to the brink, but he's not alone for long. Sounding like the roof the color of dilding, stands of dilding, their minds. That was so cool, your harness. They've spent years calling him the trash prince, but after seeing that, they're ready to start a fan club. Even Captain Sand is up there, stroking his beard and looking totally intrigued. He knows the balance of power in the palace just shifted forever. A few days pass, and the tension of the duel has settled into a deceptive peace. Jared is back on duty in the palace gardens, looking like a proper knight again, until a familiar, mischievous voice drifts through the air. Enter Yuri, looking like a total boss in a dark blue coat, with a jewel at his throat. He's got that "I'm about to do something crazy" glint in his eyes. He tells Jared to follow him because it's time to settle some debts. Jared tries to argue, but Yuri just shuts him down with a grin. You fixed your mentality thanks to me, so now it's payback time. They march through the corridors and head straight for the palace gates, where our third member is waiting. It's Hernando, a white-haired mage who looks like he hasn't slept in 3 days and is bored with existence. Yuri asks for his help, but Hernando tries to blow him off, until Yuri drops the ultimate bribe. I'll pay off your gambling debts. Boom, instant cooperation. Hernando freezes, his bored facade shattering into a million pieces. He tries to play it cool, but Yuri's got him cornered like a mouse. The mage is so excited, he pulls out a literal contract for Yuri to sign right there. Yuri looks at the predatory terms and realizes his royal title is being haggled over by a guy who probably bets on cockroach races. He's so stressed he commands Jared to be the witness, and poor Jared is just stuck in the middle of this chaotic mess. Finally, they're all set. The dark-haired prince, the stoic knight, and the greedy mage. Hernando asks the big question, where are we even going? That requires a knight and a mage. Yuri stares at the distant, jagged mountains with a cold, chilling smile. The vibes just went from 0 to 100 real quick. He looks at his 2 recruits and drops the bombshell. We are heading to loot the ancestors' dungeon. Bro, he's literally going to rob the graves of his own royal bloodline. Most people would call it a taboo. But Yuri Briel? He's a man looking for a throne, and he's ready to tear the world apart to get it. The air in this underground passage is so thick, with dust and ancient vibes, you'd think they stepped into a tomb. Vines are hanging from the ceiling like nature's own curtains, and every footstep is thumping against the stone like a heartbeat. Our boy Yuri is leading the way, looking like a man on a mission, while Jared and Hernando are just trying to keep up without tripping over their own feet. Hernando is literally a top-tier mage. But even he's shook, because this secret tunnel wasn't in any of the palace records. Jared's starting to get that we're in over our heads feeling, and asks the prince where they're actually going. Yuri doesn't even blink. He just drops the name, Sword Mountain. Boom! Jared's jaw hits the floor. He thinks it's just a bedtime story for kids, but Yuri's looking at him with eyes as cold as a winter night. This isn't a fairy tale, fam. It's a reckoning. As they walk, Yuri is having some serious high-stakes flashbacks. In his past life, the Empire found the legendary dungeon inside this mountain and basically robbed the Briol family blind because they were too weak to defend their own home. Yuri remembers being a broke mercenary, reading the news about the Empire finding his family's legacy while he was drinking cheap ale in some basement. Talk about a villain origin story. But this time, he's not the guy running away. He's the one coming to claim what's his. They finally break out of the dark tunnel into a forest. So green, it'll make your eyes hurt. It's wild, untamed, and looking straight up dangerous. Jared gets poked by a thorn and starts bleeding classic, and he and Hernando start whispering like schoolgirls. They're looking at Yuri like, yo, did the prince eat something weird? Since when does he move like a veteran scout? Yuri just tells them to pipe down and keep up. He's not here for the chatter, he's here for the loot. Suddenly the vibe shifts. The air smells like wet dog and pure aggression. Yuri puts his hand up, wait for it. Dire wolves. And it's not just one, it's a whole pack, led by a massive alpha that looks like it's been through a blender, and survived out of pure spite. Jared doesn't wait for an invite, he unsheathes his blade, and it's glowing with a brilliant blue mana aura. He's a whirlwind of steel slicing through fur and bone, like he's playing Fruit Ninja on expert mode. It's cool, but our prince is the ultimate critic. He's watching Jared and thinking, yeah, he's good, but he's not good enough for what's coming. That's when he looks at Hernando. It's time to stop playing around. Yuri gives the command, and Hernando's lazy attitude evaporates. The man raises his hand, the air starts to sizzle, and he unleashes a literal torrent of white-hot fire. We're talking absolute incineration. The forest path is cleared in seconds, leaving nothing but smoking embers. Where a pack of monsters used to be. Don't mess with the battle mage, bro. They finally reach the peak of Sword Mountain, and it's just rocks and whistling wind. Jared is looking around like, your highness? There's literally nothing here. But Yuri has the eyes of a regressor. He spots a weathered hilt sticking out of a crack in the stone, topped with a blood-red jewel that's pulsing like it's alive. He grabs it, and the sword doesn't come easy, it bites back. Yuri's hands are bleeding, the jewel is drinking his blood, and the mountain itself starts groaning, like it's waking up from a 1,000-year nap. He pulls with everything he's got, and shink! Out comes a blade so pristine and silvery, it looks like it was forged 5 minutes ago. The name Guilty is engraved on the side in elegant script. Before they can even celebrate finding the ultimate relic, the entire mountain peak starts to spiderweb. The ground literally shatters beneath them. Yuri just looks at his terrified crew with a dark smile, as they all go plummeting into the yawning abyss below. They're not just entering a dungeon, they're falling straight into the heart of the legend. The descent doesn't just end, it explodes. A massive burst of violet energy rips through the air like a localized supernova, and ancient jagged characters start glowing in the dark, as if the cave itself is screaming a warning. When the dust settles, we see this isn't just a pit. It's a massive vaulted tunnel carved right into the world's foundations, with walls dripping wet and a creepy blue heartbeat pulsing at the very end. Talk about a warm welcome. Our boy Yuri finally hits the ground, but he's not feeling the stone. Why? Because he landed straight on top of Jared. Our loyal guard is literally acting as a human mattress, groaning in pure agony, while the prince is just sitting there, perfectly composed, analyzing the situation like he's checking his bank balance. He notices a faint mana aura around Jared. Looks like the guard used his mana method to survive the fall. Not bad, Blondie. Not bad. Meanwhile, Hernando is just standing there, with his silver hair shimmering like a moonlight model, holding glowing mana orbs like he didn't just fall 1,000 feet. Yuri gives him the ultimate deadpan stare, asking if he just ignored his prince's safety for his own. Hernando's out here giving the priorities, your highness excuse, with a sheepish laugh. But the vibes shift instantly. Hernando's face goes pale, his eyes sharpen like a hawk, and he points into the pitch-black corridor. There's something there, a ripple in the darkness. That's darker than the abyss itself. Suddenly, a single baleful red eye ignites. It's a ghost. No, wait, it's even worse. Out of the shadows steps a titan of metal and malice, a freaking death knight. We're talking blackened spiked armor, a tattered bloodstained cape, and a skull-like helmet with eyes burning like dying stars. Yuri doesn't even blink. He just casually kicks the half-conscious Jared in the ribs to wake him up. Jared bolts upright, sees the monstrosity, and goes full bodyguard mode, drawing his blade and telling the prince to stand back. But Yuri? He's built different. He walks right past Jared, straight toward the undead titan. Jared's sweating buckets, but Yuri just smirks, claiming the knight won't touch him, because he's got the founder's blood in his veins. Bold move, let's see if it pays off. The knight doesn't say word. It just draws a massive, jagged greatsword with a screech that'll make your teeth hurt, and swings it down with the speed of a falling star. Boom! The floor shatters into a million pieces right next to Yuri. Hernando is literally crying, thinking the prince's head got split in half. But Yuri just stands there looking annoyed, roasting Hernando for his lack of faith. That's when a spectral voice vibrates through the stones. Your condescending attitude is just like his. The knight is talking about Eric Briel, the legendary founder, the peerless swordsman who conquered the whole continent. The hype is real, fam. Yuri steps up to a stone plinth, grips a cold silvery hilt, and pulls. The blade sings as it leaves the stone blood calling to blood. This is the peerless treasured sword itself. The knight looks at Yuri, almost offended that the kid feels guilty for touching his stuff. Before telling him to state his business, Yuri stands tall, claiming his right as the heir and demanding the legacy. They follow the knight to a circle of massive blue crystals. And for a split second, Jared sees a vision of Yuri as a war-torn hero on a battlefield. Before he can even process it, the world glitches. The damp cave is gone, replaced by a scorching desert under a blood-red sun. Yuri's alone, but not for long. A featureless white puppet of pure mana charges at him like a freight train. It's fast, it's hot, and it's glowing with complex geometric patterns. Yuri realizes it mid-clash this thing is using a mana method. The real trial has officially started, and our prince is about to find out if his bloodline is a blessing or a death sentence. The air in this spirit world is straight up vibrating, fam. Eris' mana manifestation is moving like a glitch in the Matrix, totally defying physics with a sword made of solid light. It's not just a ghost, it's a freaking blueprint of perfection. Yuri's watching that glowing blue core in its chest, like it's the secret to the universe. Liquid sapphire mana is pumping through its veins, and our boy is taking notes while his life is literally on the line. Talk about high-stakes tutoring. Yuri's standing there sweaty and exhausted, but his eyes are sharper than ever. He's at regressors, remember? He knows the end of the world is coming, but even he's never seen mana this raw and unfiltered. The spirit starts swinging the sword not to kill, but to teach. It's a deadly dance lesson. Yuri's clutching his own blade, trying to memorize every single flicker of light. Suddenly, the spirit stops and points a finger at him. The message is clear. Your turn, kid. Yuri's brain is basically buffering. He's like, are you for real? You want me to copy-paste this legendary technique while we're in the middle of a fight? He starts laughing because the situation is absolutely unhinged. My ancestor is out of his mind, he says. And honestly, we agree. But hey, Yuri isn't just anyone. He's got that second life experience. He drops into a crouch, reaches deep into his body, and starts dragging that sluggish mana to the surface. He's mimicking the blue sun he saw in the manifestation's chest, and boom, a spark! Then a glow. Sapphire light starts bleeding from his fingertips. It's a bit shaky, like a flickering candle compared to the spirit's supernova. But it's real. The spirit lets out a soul-vibrating high. To keep him focused, Yuri's knuckles are white, his sword is groaning under the pressure, and the manifestation is actually smiling. A creepy, predatory grin that says the student is finally ready to get wrecked. Yuri's thinking about the future, the fire, the screams, and that absolute menace of an enemy commander with the glowing green eyes. He's not losing this time. I will absorb it all, he roars. And the two of them collide. It's an elemental explosion where mana meets mana, creating a shockwave that flattens everything in sight. Meanwhile, back in the real world. Or is it? Our loyal guard Jared wakes up in the middle of the royal training ground. He's confused, his heart is racing, and the silence in the hall is thicker than plot armor. He draws his sword, and out steps himself? Yep, we've got a doppelganger situation. This shadow Jared has creepy yellow eyes, and a smirk that says, I'm the evil twin. The shadow starts talking smack, telling Jared he only joined the guard for a comfortable life, and that he should ditch the third prince before things get miserable. For a second, Jared flinches because the truth hurts, but then he just smiles. The old Jared might have run away, but hanging out with Yuri has changed him. He's bored of the safe path. You're just a fake, he tells his shadow self. A sword once swung can't be taken back. He lunges in, and their blades clash. The shadow is all defense, playing it safe. But Jared is going full aggro. Not ting, but boring, he shouts, shattering the doppelganger into a million pieces like glass. But wait, the trial isn't done. The shadow fragments melt into a nasty bubbling black sludge that grows into a massive oily slime monster. It's huge, it's gross, and it's towering over our boy. But Jared isn't sweating. He's just thinking, His Highness is probably fighting way harder right now. He locks in, praying for Yuri's victory while facing the beast. And back in the desert dimension, things are looking rough. Yuri is slumped against a rock, battered, bleeding, and looking like he's on his last 1% HP. The manifestation is walking toward him like inevitable doom. It raises its arm, and a miniature sun of blue mana starts spinning around its fist. This is the ultimate finishing blow. A massive explosion of blue energy wipes out the entire world, and the last thing Yuri hears is the deafening roar of absolute power. That blinding white light isn't the end, fam, it's the awakening. Our boy Yuri is pinned to the desert sand, and the mana pressure is so heavy, it's basically trying to turn him into a pancake. But you think a little gravity can stop a regressor? Absolutely not. He's lived through the literal apocalypse once, and he's not about to let a faceless hologram take him out now. He reaches for his sword, and this time, he's not just holding it. He's merging with the steel. Blue mana is bleeding into the blade, and it's humming with enough power to delete a server. Yuri's eyes ignite with a sapphire glow. That screams main character energy, and suddenly, the world slows down. He sees the glitch in the Matrix, the tiny flaw in the manifestation's energy. With a roar that would make a dragon sweat, he lunges like a streak of blue lightning, one massive upward arc sling, and he slices through that titan like a hot wire through silk. Boom! The explosion scours the entire desert, and just like that, the trial is cooked. Yuri's standing there, huffing and puffing, while the ghost of his ancestor just keeps walking into the horizon like a fading program. Talk about a dramatic exit. Our boy finally takes a breath, looking at his sword, which now feels like it actually belongs to him. He's mastered the core, mastered the rhythm, and he's ready to swing that blade with lethal intent. But wait, the simulation is fracturing. The sky is literally breaking apart. As the manifestation dissolves into dancing sparks, Yuri gives a silent thank you to his brutal teacher. Before the world resets, from the burning sun of the desert to the damp, biting chill of the cavern, we're back in reality, baby. Yuri's lungs are burning, he's drenched in sweat, and poor Jared is slumped against a raw, looking like he just survived a 12-round boxing match with his own shadow. Then, a voice like grinding metal echoes from the throne. The Death Knight is still there, looking cool as ever in that spiked armor. Yuri's like, "All right, spill a tea. What was that?" And the knight drops a lore bomb. That wasn't just some random training. It was Eric Briel's ultimate legacy. In Yuri's past life, this place was destroyed before anyone could find it, but by showing up, he's officially changed the timeline. The knight reveals the name of the technique, Esawol Severance. Edgelord name? Yes. Absolute game changer. Also yes. Yuri drops to one knee. The knight's cold metallic hand rests on his head, and it's time for the ultimate data download. Never fear your enemies. Fulfill Briel's duty. It's a mental branding that sends a spike of pain through Yuri's skull, but he takes it like a champ. The Death Knight dissolves into dark smoke, leaving Yuri with one final warning. Briel never abandons its honor. Suddenly, the scene shifts. We're out of the creepy cave and back in the Briel royal palace, with the morning sun hitting those gold-trimmed curtains. But Yuri isn't well rested. My man stayed up all night pulling a Hermione Granger in the royal archives. His maid, Ina, is already in full mome mode, scolding him for being a night owl. Yuri's hair is a total mess, but he's got the secrets now. He found out the founder had a secret brother, the man who became the Death Knight. There's no time for history class because Ina drops the news. The king wants to see him, and he's not happy. Turns out, Sir Hernando ratted him out for sneaking out to the mountain. Snitches get, well, in this case, they get Yuri in a lot of trouble. Yuri enters the audience hall, and the atmosphere is thicker than plot armor. His father, the king, is towering over him, looking like an absolute unit. He knows Yuri has changed. He's heard it from the maid, the guards, and the knights. The king puts a heavy hand on Yuri's head, and the tension is so high you could cut it with a butter knife. What caused this change, he demands. Yuri's mercenary instincts kick in, and he almost draws his sword right there. He takes a step back, eyes hardening, and his father sees a stranger in his son's body. Yuri takes a deep breath and drops the coldest line of the year. "I had a dream, and in that dream, I committed a great crime." The king is shook. The silence in the hall is deafening, as Yuri prepares to face the ghost of a future he's desperate to prevent. The tension in this room is higher than my blood pressure after a boss fight. King Fiore isn't playing around. He drops the ultimate question that echoes through the chamber, like a thunderclap. What sin did you commit in that dream? It's like an executioner's blade is hanging right over our boy's head. Yuri stands there, his back turned, looking like he's wearing a straitjacket instead of a royal suit. He takes a breath, and his voice is barely a whisper, but it hits with the weight of a dying star. The sin was failing to protect Briol until the very end. Dang, talk about a heavy confession. Suddenly, the memories hit Yuri like a 4K disaster movie. He's not seeing the palace anymore. He's seeing the spires of Briol wreathed in orange flames, the air thick with the metallic tang of blood, and the screams of a massacred city. This isn't just a nightmare, fam. It's a visceral highlight reel of his past life's failure. He describes himself as a prince of nothing, a ghost running around without honor, while the enemies of his home feasted on its corpse. And then, the killing blow. A jagged shard of memory showing a blade plunging deep into his chest. You can almost feel the cold steel, as Yuri instinctively clutches his shirt, reaching for the necklace his mother Lily gave him. But it's gone. That missing jewelry is the only physical proof that his dream was actually a brutal reality he's desperate to change. King Fiore is staring him down, looking like a titan in his military uniform. He asks the million-dollar tactical question, who caused the fall? Yuri's brain is overclocking right now. He knows it was the Empire, but if he drops that lore bomb now, it could trigger a war he's not ready to fight. So, he pulls a pro-gamer move and masks his fear with a necessary lie. "I'm not sure. It was an unidentified army." The king's gaze is sharper than a razor, and you can tell he smells a bit of cap, but he lets it slide, simply glad to see his son finally showing some backbone. But the chill talk is over because the vibe shifts instantly. The king crosses his massive arms and drops a command. "Bring your sword. We're heading to the royal training grounds." And let me tell you, this place is legendary. But Yuri isn't just sparring with his dad. He's standing across from the continent's most powerful swordmaster. King Fior is a literal cheat code, a man who's been carving his name into history since he could walk. He looks at Yuri with a dismissive smirk, basically saying he didn't think any of his kids had the it factor. But Yuri doesn't flinch. He grips his practice blade and tells his old man straight up, "I think I'm pretty talented." CAA, the king loved that energy. In a blur of motion sashling ghoster, Fury's blade is suddenly pressed against Yuri's throat. Talk about a wake-up call. The king starts dropping some high-level philosophy, asking what makes a swordsman. Strength, speed, wisdom. Fiore says nope. He talks about an element, or a calling, something deep inside that forces you to surpass your human limits. And then, his eye starts glowing with a fierce, predatory crimson light. The mana pressure in the room triples, and the air turns into a suffocating red mist. This is the aura of a true monster. Yuri looks down at his blade and sees the name engraved on the hilt, Guil. Oh, the irony is painful. His father leans in, his voice a low growl. "Can you hear the calling? When you face death, will you still be holding that blade?" And just like that, the training hall shatters. Yuri's trauma is triggered, and he's pulled back into the void. The shadows morph into a sea of blood-red eyes, and the screams of his dying people start echoing in his skull. He's back in the inferno of the past. He sees the castle towers collapsing, and an Empire soldier mercilessly slashing down civilians. There he is, the past Yuri standing in his silver plate armor, paralyzed, while his world turns to ash. "Why is Briol on fire?" he screams, as the Empire's army charges toward him. The realization hits him like a freight train. This isn't just a calling, it's a curse he has to break before the fire consumes him all over again. The sky over Briol is straight up cursed, fam. We're talking a choked out canvas of charcoal smoke and ember-lit orange that looks like the literal end of the world. The air is thick with the metallic tang of blood, and the majestic spires of the kingdom are crumbling like dry clay. Standing in the middle of this absolute disaster is Yuri, but he's not the kid we know. This is a battle-hardened version of our boy, locked in silver plate armor and breathing like he just ran a marathon through hell. He's staring at the carnage, stammering in disbelief, because the city he was born to protect is being systematically deleted from the map. Suddenly, the silence is shattered by the most ominous chant you've ever heard. From the shadows, the Black Army emerges like a tide of ink, screaming DIE with enough malice to curdle milk. But older Yuri doesn't just sit there. He moves with the lethal grace of a seasoned warrior. He spins, his sword singing through the air in a silver arc, meeting the first wave head-on. He's fighting like a man possessed, clashing steel with these armored silhouettes, while they spit on his royal title. The impact of the blades is so violent, it's sending sparks everywhere, and you can see the sweat and soot mixing on his face as he pivots, redirecting an enemy's force and delivering a horizontal slash that bites deep. Black blood sprays across the screen as the soldier drops with a gurgling scream. His own men, the Briol Knights, form a desperate circle around him, begging him to run while they hold the line. It's a total heartbreaker, watching his army get snuffed out one by one, just to buy him a few more seconds. Yuri is standing on the tattered, blood-soaked banner of his fallen kingdom, looking absolutely defeated. He whispers to the ashes that he can't stop it, until a spark of defiance flickers in his eyes. Those red pupils ignite with the power of soul severance, and the spectral voice of the Death Knight booms through the void, commanding him to carry out his duty until the very end. Yuri lets out a primal battle cry that shakes the foundation of the nightmare and lunges forward. He's a whirlwind of blue soul fire and cold steel, taking hits to his armor but refusing to go down. He's driving his blade through torsos and standing on a literal mountain of corpses. Even as the enemy commander laughs and calls him a dead man walking, Yuri raises his sword one last time, blue flames erupting with enough intensity to drown out the fire of the burning city. "You until the very end," he screams, and the vision finally fractures. Suddenly, we're back in the royal palace. No more blood, no more smoke, just white and gold ceilings and the scent of lavender. Our boy is 13 again, lying in bed and whispering those same final words. King Fiora is standing over him, looking like an absolute unit in his military uniform, trying to snap Yuri out of it. Yuri is babbling about the Black Army, but the king drops an anchor of reality. It was just an illusion. Yuri grips his practice sword, his knuckles white, and you can see a new, harder resolve forming behind those young eyes. The king sighs, looking at his son with a serious expression, and finally says the words we've been waiting for. "Yuri, you will wield the sword." Siake? Talk about a promotion. Our boy is stunned. The continent's top swordmaster just gave him the green light. Yuri hits him with a confident grin and calls himself a genius to lighten the mood. But the king isn't having the sass today. Sell clunk! He drops a heavy-handed love tap on Yuri's head that echoes through the entire palace gardens. Rest in peace to Yuri's skull, man. Fast forward to the training grounds, and Yuri is trudging across the stone with a massive, pulsating lump on his head. The instructor Bernard is trying so hard not to laugh at the masterpiece the king left on Yuri's forehead. But the vibe shifts when Yuri gets serious. He knows Bernard only stays in the kingdom because of his dad, so he asks the big question, would you stay for me? Bernard gives him a total chibi laugh and a hard nope, but then his face turns dead serious. He looks Yuri in the eye and gives him a challenge that sends chills down the spine. If Yuri wants him to stay, he has to prove himself by showing off the legendary swordsmanship of his ancestor Eric Briol. The palace courtyard is glowing in that late afternoon sun, but the vibe's absolutely icy, fam. Our boy Yuri is standing across from Bernard. And let's be real, Bernard isn't just a teacher. He's the legendary sword demon, and he looks every bit the part with that dark blue vest and a gaze that could cut through stone. Bernard drops a bombshell right out the gate, asking Yuri to teach him the founding king's secret sword technique. Talk about a plot twist. Yuri's eyes go wide because he didn't expect this veteran to sniff out his secret stash of ancient moves so fast. Bernard is standing there, stroking his mustache like a true connoisseur of violence, visualizing a blade style he's only heard of in legends. Yuri is sweating bullets, his hand going to that bandage on his head like he's having a physical reaction to the pressure. He knows this isn't just some flashy footwork. This is the royal bloodline's forbidden fruit. He tries to shut it down with a firm no. But the sword demon isn't taking no for an answer. He looms over Yuri, telling him he doesn't need a masterpiece, just the foundation will do. Realizing Bernard is like a dog with a bone, Yuri draws his sword, the steel singing as it leaves the scabbard. He looks Bernard dead in the eye and tells him the truth. It's not that he won't teach him, it's that he can't. Suddenly the air starts to ripple and pop. A massive ethereal blue mana erupts from Yuri like a localized hurricane, casting long azure shadows across the courtyard. This isn't just mana reinforcement, this is the Soul Severance mana method, where the energy and the sword technique are one and the same. It's like the fire being the wood itself. Bernard is absolutely floored, his jaw nearly hitting the gravel as he watches the blue flames dance on Yuri's blade. Yuri explains that without the specific internal mana circulation, the moves are just hollow shells. It's like trying to breathe without lungs, completely useless. Bernard goes silent, tapping his chin while the palace stands as a witness to this high-stakes negotiation. You'd think he'd give up, right? Nope. Bernard looks up with a predatory glit in his eye and says, bet. He's so obsessed with the craft that he's willing to take even half a secret. He promises to stay in Briol just for a taste of that legendary skill, letting out a booming laugh that probably scared every bird in a 5-mile radius. Yuri is internally face-palming at the sheer confidence of this man, but hey, he got what he wanted. He smirks, seals the deal, and tells Bernard he's locked in. But wait, Bernard is a work-hard, play-hard kind of guy. He immediately shifts into a combat crouch, pointing his rapier straight at Yuri's throat and demanding a demonstration right now. Yuri doesn't back down. He coils his muscles, the blue soul fire igniting once again. Here goes Soul Severance, he shouts, ready to blow the roof off the place, until Bernard drops the ultimate troll move. With a cheeky grin, Bernard reveals he was always going to stay in Briol because the king already signed him for a 10-year contract. BRU! Yuri's jaw hits the floor. He's standing there with an annoyance vein throbbing on his forehead, realizing he just got played. Before he can even complain, Bernard lunges forward with a jump so powerful it literally shatters the stone tiles beneath him. Telling me that now? He yells, and the world explodes into a clash of sparks and blue mana. As the sun dips below the horizon, the echoes of their duel finally fade into the night. Later, Yuri is back in his room, staring at the ceiling in his pajamas. The hype is gone, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. He looks at his fist, thinking about the burning castle from his visions. The future is changing piece by piece. Bernard staying is proof of that. He vows to stop the Empire no matter what, until his maid Ina bursts in and ruins the cool moment. She's got her hands on her hips, looking like a disappointed mother, telling him not to get into trouble. Yuri is confused, but Ina drops the hammer. Vessianate meetin'. Yuri groans so hard he might pass out. He forgot he has to face the most boring, stubborn politicians in the kingdom. Ina makes him promise not to punch anyone, and our boy gives her his word. Morning hits like a truck, and the grand hall is packed with old men in fancy suits. Yuri is sitting there in his navy blue suit, looking sharp but feeling trapped. Suddenly, bam, a fist slams the table. It's Duke Jatari, and he's already acting like a massive hater. He's a portly guy in a red and gold coat who looks like he's about to burst a blood vessel. He starts barking that Yuri shouldn't be allowed to learn an unapproved mana method. Yuri watches the room, realizing Jatari is just trying to undermine the king's authority. The Duke tries to gaslight everyone, saying they're just worried about the prince. Yuri hits him with a sarcastic smirk, but internally, he's disgusted. He remembers Jatari from his past life. The guy is a total traitor who bowed to the Empire the second things got hairy. Jatari tries to corner the Royal Guard Captain Sant, putting him on the spot. Poor Sanded is sweating through his gloves, trying to play it safe, but Jatari twists his words to make the soul severance method sound like a death trap. Yuri knows that soul severance has already taken root in his core. It's not a choice anymore, it's a part of his soul. He's searching for a comeback when another noble, Baron Calcio, leans back with a smirk. He looks around at the room full of yapping politicians and drops a question that silences everyone. How many of you here have actually fought an orc before? The Senate chamber is smelling like old, dusty paper and massive egos, fam. We've got Captain Sanad sitting there with his game face on, tracking every move across the table like a hawk. The vibe is tense, the stakes are high, and the room is packed with silver-haired boomers who look like they've never skipped a staff meeting in 50 years. Suddenly, the silence is absolutely nuked by Dukernar Jatari. This man is portly, his mustache is vibrating with pure rage, and he's pointing at the center of the room like he just found a hair in his soup. He screams, "WHO, are you?" And honestly, the audacity of this guy is off the charts. Sitting there in a flashy red jacket that basically says, "I don't care about your dress code," is Calcio Arancha. He doesn't even blink. Shh. He just stands up, lets a predatory smirk slide across his face, and announces he's a free baron. The room goes quiet enough to hear a pin drop. A baron? In the Senate? Duke Tutari is turning a shade of purple I didn't even know existed. Calcio just shrugs it off like it's no big deal. But then his eyes flash with a terrifying intensity. He drops the heavy hitter. He's not here for the snacks. He was sent by Count Sidor. The name hits the room like a tactical nuke. Sidor is the legendary frontier lord, a man who lives on the battlefield, while these nobles are arguing about tea. Even our boy Yuri is impressed. He's sitting there in his sharp navy suit, thinking about how Sidor is basically a war god who never does politics. This isn't just a visit, it's a power move. Captain Sanad asks the question on everyone's mind. Why now? Calcio doesn't hold back, roasting the high-ranking nobles for playing house while the world burns. He tells them straight up on the battlefield, the mana method doesn't matter. Whether it's the Briole style or the Empire's lion method, a sword is a sword. The green-coated senator tries to bark back, but Calcio is just getting started. He turns to Yuri and asks for the prince's take. Yuri opens his eyes and man, you can see the aura of a king in the making. He tells the entire room that he's learning the founding king's method, and he's not asking for permission. He's basically telling these old men to sit down and be humble. Calcio loves the energy. He starts mocking the nobles, asking how many of them have actually fought an orc. The silence is deafening. These guys are sweating through their fancy silk shirts now. When the Duke tries to claim the frontier is quiet, Calcio's eyes turn a bloody demonic red. He drops the cold hard truth. 4 of his brothers in arms died just the morning he left. Orcs don't take lunch breaks, and they certainly don't care about Senate procedures. Yuri is watching this play out, his mind racing through the maps of the kingdom. He remembers this timeline the Klein Duchy and the orcs are about to move at the same time. He asks Calcio if the movements are getting ominous. And when Calcio confirms that border towns are being enslaved and devastated, the gravity of the situation sinks in. Yuri realizes the Duke's own family is likely involved in the mess. He stands up, his chair scraping against the floor like a final gavel. He tells them he's done wasting time on mana debates when there's a real war coming, and he walks out like a total boss. Later, as the sun sets over the capital, a communication orb flickers to life. It's Count Sidor himself, looking like a man who has seen too much war. Calcio reports back, grinning like a maniac because he's finally found someone interesting. Sidor tells him to keep a close eye on the third prince. The mystery of Yuri Briole is only getting deeper. But wait, Calcio looks out his window and sees a figure in a purple hood slipping through the crowd. Is that the prince? No way he'd be out at this hour, right? Wrong. Our boy Yuri is actually out in the streets with Hernando, who's hyped up like he just drank 5 energy drinks. Hernando thinks they're just out for a little rebellion, but Yuri stops him cold. Shh. He pulls out a shimmering gold coin, a smug smirk on his face, and announces the destination, the biggest illegal casino in the capital. Hernando's jaw hits the floor. He thought Yuri was the good boy now, but the prince is playing 4D chess. Yuri looks him dead in the eye and tells him this isn't for fun. Every move he makes is for the future of Briole. Hernando sees that fire in Yuri's eyes and realizes he's following a legend. He punches the air, ready to cause some chaos, as they disappear into the shadows of the gambling dens. Yuri is standing in the middle of a literal Hall of Fame fam. He's staring at 3 portraits that aren't just art, they're the blueprints for his entire survival. In his past life, these 3 legends shook the world to its core, and our boy knows that if he wants to win this time, he needs them on his team. First up, we've got the king of the criminal underworld, a moneylender who's basically a human shark in a sharp suit. Then there's the merchant queen who built an empire out of nothing. And finally, the absolute GOAT, the legendary assassin, who ended the underground boss and took the throne by force. Yuri's eyes are glowing with that "I know how the movie ends" energy, because he knows exactly where to find target number one. We cut to a high-stakes casino, where the air is thick with expensive cigars, and the smell of people losing their life savings. This is the lair of Goryo, the top loan shark of the city. This man is walking around with a smug mustache, and guards that look like they eat bricks for breakfast. But Yuri doesn't care. He walks in wearing a hood like a total phantom, and Ernano is behind him looking like he's about to have a panic attack. Yuri drops the "Do you know who I am" line, and the room goes icy. Goryo isn't a fool. He recognizes the third prince and the royal mage immediately. He thinks he's about to fleece a spoiled royal, but Yuri sits down and tells him straight up, "I'm here to borrow money and invest it." Goryo is trying to play mind games, asking if Yuri is making a secret slush fund, but Yuri shuts him down with a look so cold it could freeze the sun. He tells Goryo that interrogating him isn't part of the job description. Savage. Yuri lays out the plan. He's buying mugranja, a specialty spice. Hernando is losing his mind because who buys spice at a casino? Even Goryo is skeptical, but he doesn't realize Yuri is playing 4D chess. See? Yuri knows a civil war is coming, and the only guy who can make this spice is about to get deleted from the server. Once he's gone, the price is going to the moon. After some intense negotiations under a crystal chandelier, Yuri signs the papers with a predatory smirk and walks out into the moonlight. Hernando is pacing back and forth screaming about how they just borrowed a mountain of debt from a shark, but Yuri just laughs it off. He tells Hernando that if he'd told him the truth, the mage would have snitched to the king. But we aren't done yet. They head to the absolute trenches of the city, stopping at a shack that looks like it's held together by vibes and prayers. Yuri knocks and calls out for Elaine Wood. Out comes a woman with piercing blue eyes who looks exhausted but dignified. Nando is crying again. He thinks Yuri is throwing money at a failing business. But our boy is looking into the future. He sees the legendary merchant queen she's destined to become. He gives her a dark, low laugh that sends shivers down Hernando's spine, promising to make her a myth that surpasses the legends. But wait, there's one more stop. They dive deep into the slums, passing mud wrestlers and rats, until Yuri finds a group of orphans by a well. He spots a girl with messy blue hair and scars that tell 1,000 stories. This is Asana. Right now, she's just a starving kid, but in Yuri's memories, she's the shadow who stands over Goryo's bloody corpse, with glowing red eyes. The underworld boss, the merchant tycoon, and now the deadliest blade in the kingdom. Yuri is collecting elite allies like Pokemon, and he's just getting started. Yuri is standing in the absolute trenches of the slums, and the vibe is heavy, fam. He's staring down Asana, the kid who's destined to become the world's deadliest shadow. But right now, he's just a hungry boy with messy blue hair, trying to figure out why a literal prince is chilling in the mud. Asana's voice is raspier than a pack of cigarettes as he asks what royalty is doing in the gutter, but Yuri doesn't even blink. He's got that "I'm the main character" aura on full blast, telling Asana to relax because he's just here to help. Meanwhile, Hernando is in the back shaking like a leaf, clutching a bag of gold like it's his firstborn child. Yuri doesn't ask, he commands, "Give it." And man, you can practically hear Hernando's soul leaving his body as he hands over the bag. Just then, Yuri spots a tiny, sickly girl hiding behind Asana. His heart sinks because he knows this script. In his past life, Asana became a cold-blooded killer because he sold his soul to that mustache-twirling shark Goryo just to save this girl. Yuri is like, "Nah, we're deleting that timeline right now." He thrusts the bag of gold at Asana and tells him to get the girl to a temple ASAP. Asana is shook. He's looking at the gold like it's a glitch in the Matrix, asking what Yuri wants in return. Our boy just throws back his hood, gives him a smile that could light up the whole city, and says, "I'm Yuri Briel. Just remember the name. Absolute legend." He sprints out of there before Asana can even say thanks, leaving Hernando wheezing in the dust. Hernando is losing it, asking why they just dropped a fortune on a random kid, but Yuri just smirks. "It's an investment, bro." He's building his own Avengers team, a loan shark, a merchant queen, and now an assassin. He's playing 5D chess while everyone else is playing checkers. But the next morning, the real pressure starts. King Fiore is sitting on his throne, looking like he's ready to hand out some punishment. He's grilling a Hernando about their little field trip, and Hernando, the absolute MVP, pulls out a script that deserves an Oscar. He tells the king that Yuri is just a degenerate gambler who lost all his money at a casino and then gave the rest to orphans because he's naive. The king is just disappointed, thinking his son is a spoiled brat, but that's exactly what Yuri wants. It's better to be seen as a fool than a threat when you're plotting a revolution. While the king is brooding, we cut to the training grounds, where Yuri is getting absolutely humbled by Bernard. The wood is clashing, sweat is flying, and Yuri is trying to tease Bernard about being a ladies' man with the maids. Bernard gets all flustered, total chibi vibes, but he doesn't let up on the training. He's confused because Yuri's sword style has no form. It just flows like mana. Little does he know, Yuri is a grandmaster hiding in a kid's body, trying to scrub his old family style out of his muscle memory. Yuri is tired of the wooden toys though. He pulls out a real steel blade, and the air gets sharp enough to cut. He bets Bernard that if he lands one hit, the knight has to attend the royal ball. Yuri channels his mana, his sword erupting in crackling blue energy, as he charges like a literal thunderbolt. The collision sends shockwaves through the entire yard, but yeah, I didn't land it. Turns out, even with future knowledge, your body still needs to hit the gym. As the sun sets, the palace gates swing open for the heavy hitters. Ornate carriages are rolling in, and inside one of them is the second prince of the empire, Jorg, and his sister, Yekaterina. She's glued to the window with a look in her eyes. That says she's not just here for the cake. She's looking for someone specific. And with the way she's smiling, things are about to get chaotic. The Briol Palace is glowing like a 5-star resort under the moonlight. But don't let the pretty lights fool you, the vibes inside are absolutely suffocating. Our boy Yuri is standing in front of a mirror, looking like a literal snack in a dark blue royal uniform. But he's not feeling it at all. These gold epaulets, they feel like lead weights. The medals? Way too flashy. He tells his maid Ina to strip the decorations off, but she's not having it. She gives him that "I know you better than you know yourself" smile, and reminds him he used to love this strip. Yuri's just staring at her through the mirror, realizing he's trapped in a world of high-stakes politics and itchy fabric. But then, he decides to pivot. He turns around, drops his voice an octave, and asks Ina for a dance. Fam, Ina turns a shade of red that would make a tomato jealous. She's squeaking, she's stuttering. And Yuri is suddenly a flustered teenager scratching his head like he didn't just plan a revolution yesterday. It's total chibi energy in here. Ina finally takes his hand, suspicious that he's gonna step on her feet, and they start to move. For a second, the heavy crown and the looming empire don't matter. Yuri is leading, Ina is finding her rhythm, and they're actually having a moment. Of course, Ina can't help but tease him about his height, and Yuri immediately gets roasted when she accidentally stomps on his toes. Classic Ina. But the cozy vibes get nuked the second we hit the ballroom. The music is grand, the nobles are fake, and King Theori is sitting on his throne, looking like a final boss with a glass of red wine. Yuri's scanning the room like a hawk, spotting the heavy hitters like Count Sidor. He tries to play it cool with his brother Cedric, who is out here being the perfect, handsome air-eating macarons like a champ. Suddenly, the trumpets blare, and the main antagonist energy enters the room. Georg Ivarna Gronzayan, the second prince of the empire, marches in looking like a terrifying blonde god. He's got the white uniform, the crimson cape, and a sword that's definitely seen some things. He shakes hands with the king, but you can feel the sparks flying. And then, the world stops. Out steps Yekaterina. She's shimmering in light blue, surrounded by a literal aura of flowers. Yuri's brain goes into a full-blown meltdown. The memories of his past life, the tragedy, the regrets, the broken promises hit him like a truck. He's biting his lip until it bleeds, swearing he won't let her into his heart this time. He watches her dance with Cedric, feeling like a side character in his own palace, just clutching a cookie for emotional support. Ina shows up with a tray of sweets to save his sanity, but the peace is short-lived. The air turns ice cold as Georg stalks up behind Yuri. This guy's a walking nightmare. His eyes start glowing with that toxic green mana, and he releases a wave of killing intent so heavy it nearly crushes Yuri's lungs. Georg is just purring threats, testing the talent of the third prince. But then, Georg decides to be a total villain. He spots Ina passing by and pulls a pro-gamer movie trips her. The tray flies, wine splashes all over Georg's pristine white uniform, and Ina is on her knees, shaking with terror. Georg pulls a sinister smile, draws his sword, and levels it right at her throat. He's calling for an execution over a wine stain. Yuri's vision is going red. His teeth are gritting. He knows this wasn't an accident. This absolute monster did it on purpose to provoke him. And now the ballroom is about to turn into a bloodbath. Georg is literally standing there with the smirkiest grin you've ever seen, looking like a total menace while poor Ina is on the floor, shaking like a leaf. The vibe in the room just went from royal party to straight-up execution in 3 seconds flat. This blonde-haired fraud actually has the audacity to call for a beheading over a wine stain. I mean, talk about being a drama queen. He's talking about her life like she's a piece of trash. And Yuri is standing in the back with his gray eye glowing like he's ready to crash the entire server. But just when things are looking pitch black, the heavy hitters show up. King Fiora enters the chat, stepping down those stairs with major final boss energy. He tells Georg if he wants to see blood, he can do it back in his own kingdom. Talk about a total mic drop. Georg pulls back with his fake-as-plastic smile, but then he starts playing the politics card. He brings up some old beef called Gutinsha, basically a debt of honor that's been hanging over the Briol family like a dark cloud. Yuri realizes this isn't just a temper tantrum. It's a high-stakes political trap designed to humiliate his family. George starts drawing his sword. The steel is rasping against the leather, and Ina's neck is right in the line of fire. But wait, Yuri's had enough. He steps right out of the shadows into the spotlight, his eyes shining with that icy blue mana. He tells Georg that Ina is his maid, meaning her mistakes are his mistakes. He's only 13, but he's staring down an imperial prince like he's nothing. And then, the absolute madman Says Itty challenges Georg to a duel trial. George literally bursts out laughing, thinking this is some kind of comedy show. But Yuri doesn't even flinch. He's standing there with his hand over his heart, dead serious. King Fior is sweating bullets, but he realizes Yuri just gave them the only way out of this mess. Georg accepts, but since he's a massive coward, he's gonna use a proxy fighter, the youngest guy in the royal guard. After the chaos dies down, Yuri finds Ina and tells her to go rest, being the absolute goat of a master. He's walking through the halls and runs into his big brother Cedric, who's actually worried sick. Cedric offers to swap in and handle the fight, warned that the age-appropriate opponent is actually a specialized killer. But our boy Yuri is built different. He tells Cedric he's gonna finish what he started, and Cedric gives him that big brother head pat of approval. Fast forward to the morning of the duel, and the sun is blazing over the training grounds. The Empire's proxy is standing there looking like a literal mountain of steel in full plate armor. Captain Sanad is over here biting his nails, wondering if the prince is about to get folded like an omelet. But check out Yuri. Our boy is literally in the middle of the arena, yawning. He's so bored he's stretching his arms like he just woke up from a nap. He throws his practice sword over his shoulder and smirks at the armored giant. He's not just fighting for a maid anymore, he's fighting to see exactly what kind of kingdom he can build in this new life, and anyone standing in his way is about to find out the hard way. Deep inside the silent halls of the Magic Tower, there's a secret that'll make your skin crawl. The rank of Grand Wizard isn't just a title, it's a straight-up heavy burden on the soul. We're talking about the architects of reality, the guys who literally speak the primordial language. And the crown jewel of this magic? Fate-revealing magic. It lets you peek at the world's final script, unraveling time like a messy ball of yarn. In this entire world, only one man has reached this level, Hernando. This guy is looking like a total ghost in his sanctum, surrounded by floating books and glowing circles, while his golden eye starts pulsing with that energy. But as he's peering into the flow of time, he catches a stray memory that hits him like a truck. He remembers being in a smoky gambling den, sweating buckets while some brat mocks him for being trash. And who else would it be but our boy Yuri Briel? Back then, Hernando was losing his mind, because even with his cheat code eyes, he couldn't read Yuri's hand. While everyone else has clear lines of fate, Yuri was just a jagged dark illusion called the Sword Mountain. Hernando saw a vision of an older Yuri, drenched in blood and gore, swinging his sword like a lone wolf in a wasteland, a beautiful tragic disaster that never yields. Fast forward to the present, and Hernando realizes his magic wasn't broken, it was trying to tell him that Yuri is a straight-up anomaly? He's standing in the spectator stands looking down, with a smirk because he's finally figured it out. Prince Yuri is a person with no destiny. Captain Sanad is over here stressing about the duel, but Hernando's just chilling, knowing something we don't. Down in the arena, the sun is cooking the stone tiles, and Yuri is standing there with a practice sword, looking bored out of his mind. He's literally asking the opponent, "Yo, how long are you gonna swing at the air?" Talk about no respect. Prince Georg is sitting on his high horse acting like a diva, but Yuri's just like, "I'm good to go whenever, buddy." King Fiore drops the hammer, screams, "Comments!" And Yuri doesn't just move, he vanishes. He's a streak of shadow clashing against the armored attendant, making the steel ring out like a funeral bell. Yuri is moving in multiple frames of motion, a total whirlwind of strikes. Then as this poor guy questioning his entire career, he leaps into the air, trails of blue light following, and brings down a shockwave that blurs the whole screen. The king asks Hernando who's gonna win, and even the Grand Wizard is like, honestly, no clue. But then the opponent starts glowing with a red aura, channeling that final boss mana reinforcement for one last desperate strike. The king thinks it's over, but Yuri's eyes snap open with a piercing blue fire. He whispers, "Enough testing the waters. Shh." And his blade ignites with blue mana so intense it's hissing. Yuri becomes instantaneous, spinning behind the guy, like a glitch in the Matrix, and delivering a point-blank strike of pure energy. The opponent literally thinks, "I am gonna die." As Yuri shatters his sword into pieces, the stadium goes from dead silence to an absolute roar as Yuri presses his glowing blade against the guy's throat. The attendant surrenders, realizing he just got folded by a legend. Hernando is up in the stands laughing his head off, realizing Yuri didn't just win a fight. He's literally defying the will of the heavens. With every step he takes, the books of fate are officially being rewritten, because our boy Yuri Briel is the one who transcends destiny itself. Hernando is standing in the dim light of the palace, looking like a total vibe with that white hair and those I know everything golden eyes. This man treats the universe like a giant jigsaw puzzle, and he's the only one with a box cover. He's whispering about following fate, only to meet a guy who treats the laws of physics like they're just polite suggestions. We're talking about the cycle of life and death, the ultimate natural law. But Hernando sees a massive crack in the system, a glitch in the matrix that's about to flip the script on the entire kingdom. Meanwhile, third Prince Georg is sitting there looking like a final boss in training, draped in a red cape that looks way too much like a pool of blood for comfort. Hernando's watching him from the shadows, realizing that one swing of Georg's sword just changed the destiny of everyone in the room. The gears of a tragic machine are grinding to life, fueled by royal ego and the silent grit of the forgotten. Suddenly, the palace goes from 0 to 100. The nobles are losing their minds, and Captain Sanded looks like he just saw a ghost. But our boy Yuri Briel is just standing in the center of the chaos, rocking that Fate Transcender title like a badge of honor. He's got jet black hair, battle-scarred armor, and a fresh cut on his cheek that he doesn't even care about, because he's busy smirking at the heavens. He holds his sword like it's an extension of his own arm, looking like the ultimate anomaly that the gods forgot to account for. Hernando is low-key fangirling in the corner, wondering how Yuri is going to reshape the world while carrying the tragedy of the past like it's a light jacket. Fast forward 5 years, yeah, time flies when you're defying destiny. The castle looks peaceful, but those falling leaves are a straight-up omen that the golden age is ending. Inside, we see a poor maid having a total internal meltdown because she messed up her patrol zone. She's terrified of getting caught by the royals. And of course, she runs straight into a guy with black hair and a serious attitude. She's trying to remember her maid's guide to the royals. Is he the king? No. The crown prince? Nope. He's got that shady gaze and the I'm better than you swagger. So she figures it's the third prince and starts shaking. But then a voice cuts through the tension like a hot knife through butter. Bro, it's Yuri. He's just strolling by in a casual white shirt, popping cookies like a boss, and asking if his brother is back to picking on the staff again. Cedric tries to deny it with a "no" that you could hear from the next kingdom over. But we all know the truth. Yuri is a man of the people, even taking a snack gift from the maid he just saved with a thoughtful hum. But the fun and games end quick. Yuri's eyes go dark as he focuses on his bare hand realm training. Blue mana is crackling around his fingers. The guy's literally using energy to dampen the physical pressure on his body. He remembers the sting of the blade from his past life. Waking up in a cold sweat, realizing the peaceful days are officially over, the war drums are starting to beat, and the nobles are already screaming in the council chambers like it's a bargain sale at the mall. Yuri doesn't even bother knocking. Shh. He coats himself in a blue mana aura and literally shatters the door frame as he walks in. He gives a mock apology like, "Oh my bad, I might have knocked a bit too hard," while the royal guard behind him looks like his soul just left his body. King Fiore is sitting there looking stern, but Yuri doesn't flinch. He sits down at the table where everyone is bickering about troops and the Empire's request for an alliance army. Yuri's internal monologue is on point. He remembers this exact moment from his past life. The Empire is setting a trap, using other nations as orc bait while they sit back and watch the carnage. He sees the faces of the knights they're about to lose, like Leanne Flandre, and his gaze turns into pure steel. This time, he's not letting history repeat itself. While the nobles are arguing about who's not sending soldiers, Yuri stands up and drops a literal bombshell. "I will go." The room goes silent. He's volunteering to lead the charge into the meat grinder, telling the nobles to stop being cowards and fulfill their duty. Even the king is impressed by the sheer weight of his son's resolve. The prep work begins immediately, with Yuri and Bernard clashing swords in the training yard under a rainy sky. Cedric shows up, actually looking worried for once, asking why a royal would risk his neck. Yuri just smiles and says it's the family duty, leaving Cedric so moved he runs away crying about brotherhood. But Bernard knows the real score. He warns Yuri that these aren't just any orcs. They're Orbal, the muscular red-eyed nightmares carrying black banners that haunt every veteran's sleep. They're cunning, they're vicious, and they're coming. Yuri isn't sweating it though. He's got a plan. A maid runs up saying his special order has arrived, and our Fate Transcender just gives one last confident smirk. He's walking straight into the fire, and this time, he's the one holding the match. The morning mist is thick enough to hide a ghost, and Ina is outside Yuri's door, looking like she's about to face a final boss, instead of just delivering a message. Her hands are shaking, her braids are bouncing, and you can practically hear her internal screaming. She finally builds up the courage to knock, because the special order has arrived. Outside on the balcony, Yuri is catching the breeze with Bernard, looking like a total royal icon in that white lace shirt. But don't let the drip fool you. That heavy sword on his hip isn't for show. Bernard is looking skeptical, wondering what kind of plan this kid has cooked up, but Yuri just hits him with that "I'm 4 parallel universes ahead of you" smirk. He's a regressor, fam. He's already seen the credits roll on this world once, and this time, he's writing a different ending. He heads to the luxury lounge to meet Guillermo, the vice president of the Elaine Trading Company, who walks in looking like he owns half the continent. They trade some banter about Elaine being a total workaholic, who loves the battlefield more than a desk job. But then things get serious. Guillermo pulls out a wooden box covered in ancient runes, and Yuri's eyes light up. Inside, the 4-wheel blades. To Guillermo, they look like fancy toys. But Yuri knows the truth, these are ancient magic relics. Our boy channels his blue mana, and suddenly the room is glowing like a rave. The daggers start levitating and vibrating, scaring the absolute daylight out of Guillermo. He's sweating buckets. Because controlling mana like that at Yuri's age is straight up illegal. Yuri just catches the blade out of the air like it's nothing, telling the merchant to send his regards to Elaine before sending him packing. As soon as the doors shut, Yuri calls out to the literal shadows, and boom, Asana manifests out of thin air. She's the ultimate shadow subordinate, confirming she tucked a warning under the pillow of a corrupt loan shark named Goryo. Talk about a wake-up call. Asana is worried about the suicide mission to the frontier, but Yuri just smirks and tells her, "Pack your bags, you're coming too." Fast forward to deployment day, and the vibe is electric. The horns are blaring, the flags are snapping, and Yuri is decked out in silver plate armor that's shining brighter than his future. His brother Cedric is there, looking like a worried parent, and giving him a massive hug, telling him to come back safe. It's a wholesome sibling moment before the absolute chaos begins. King Pure steps up, looking like a literal god of war in his military uniform. He asks Yuri if he's nervous, then tells him to turn around. Yuri looks out and sees a silver ocean, thousands of soldiers, pikes held high, all waiting for his command. But then, the king decides to give him one last test. He releases a wave of killing intent so heavy, it turns into a red demonic silhouette. The pressure is insane. Yuri's armor is rattling, his body is freezing up, and it feels like a mountain is sitting on his chest. The king swings a massive red energy sword, telling him if he runs, he dies. But our boy Yuri doesn't know the meaning of the word quit. He reaches deep, explodes with his own blue mana, and clashes his blade against the king's aura in a shockwave. That probably broke every window in the city. The king stops, actually smiling because his son is an absolute beast. "Final order," the king says, "come back alive." Yuri steps to the edge of the podium, raises his sword to the sky, and lets out a roar that could wake the dead. He's the 3rd Prince of Briol, and the entire army starts chanting his name like he's a rock star. The silver tide begins to move, marching toward a destiny they don't even know is changing. Way out on the border, in a dark, grimy dungeon, Count Sidor is gripping the bars of a cell, while the red-eyed orc snarls in the shadows. He's thinking about the rumors, thinking about the 5 years that have passed, and whispering the name that's about to change everything, the regressor. The morning sun is hitting the forest clearing, and our boy Yuri is looking like a literal boss perched on a mossy rock. His silver armor is gleaming, his black cape is flowing, and he's just sitting there draining his water skin like he's in a high-budget sports commercial. But while his men are laughing and chilling nearby, Yuri's brain is running at 144 hertz. He's not just a prince anymore, he's a commander now, and the transition is making his soul harder than the plate mail he's wearing. He walks over to Sir Raymond, who's sweating over a map, and asks the big question, how much further? They've reached the gates of Sidor, fam. They're hitting Gid next, and then the assembly point at Balshad. The pace is grueling, but Yuri is locked in. Suddenly, someone calls out, "Your Highness," and Yuri's blood turns to straight ice. He turns around and bam, instant PTSD. For a split second, the sun vanishes, and he sees a nightmare from his past life, a zombified monster knight with glowing red eyes and a cracked helmet. This is the guy who ended him, the man who turned his game over screen into a reality. But wait, look at him now. It's Roland Flandre, the Margrave's eldest son, and he's looking like a generic shoujo protagonist. With that blonde hair and perfect face, he drops to a knee, acting all respectful, while Yuri is literally vibrating with confusion. Roland looks up, and his eyes aren't red with malice. They're sparkling with pure fanboy energy. Turns out, this legendary killer is actually Yuri's biggest stan. Ever since Yuri stood up for Ina 5 years ago, Roland's been keeping a mental scrapbook. He's blushing, he's gushing, and he's calling Yuri his idol. Our boy is just standing there with a "what is happening" face, sweating buckets because the guy who murdered him in a past life is now looking for an autograph. Yuri plays it cool, hits him with the "let's get along" pat on the shoulder, and Roland looks like he's about to ascend to heaven from the sheer honor. They keep moving as the sky turns a deep, bruised purple. under a moon that looks straight out of a horror game. They finally hit the massive stone fortress of Sidor. Raymond was all like, "Don't expect a party. The Margrave is a grumpy old man." But the castle is decked out in blue banners and rows of soldiers like it's a royal homecoming. At the front is the man himself, Hama Theodore. This guy has a scar across his eye that says he eats orcs for breakfast without any milk. He bows to Yuri, giving him that veteran-to-veteran respect, because our boy is jumping into the front lines at such a young age. He asks Yuri if he's ever fought an orc, and instead of capping to look cool, Yuri keeps it 100, he hasn't. Haney loves the honesty and tells him he's got a present waiting for him. They head deep into the dungeon, where the air smells like rust and bad vibes. Haney unlocks a massive iron door, and inside, the shadows are moving. Simon, a young noble knight who probably thinks war is a fairy tale, looks like he's about to lose his lunch. In the corner, there's a massive, gray-skinned monster, a real-life orc. Simon's all like, "Isn't this a bit much for a prisoner?" But Yuri knows better. He tells Haney to open the cage. The second that door creaks, the pitiful orc turns into a straight demon. It slams its boulder-sized feet onto the stone, roaring with enough hate to shatter glass. Yuri orders Simon to fight it, and the poor kid is shaking so hard his sword is doing a drum solo. The orc lunges with the speed of a freight train, its fist cracking the floor. It's not a prisoner. It's a predator that's just been waiting for a snack. It grabs Simon by the shoulder, and you can practically hear the collarbone turning into dust. Raymond is screaming to intervene, but Jaime and Yuri just stand there like statues. Jaime reveals they already nerfed the beast by cutting its tendons. But even a crippled orc is a nightmare for a rookie. Yuri looks at the terrified broken boy and the snarling beast, dropping the coldest line of the night. This is an orc. The air in this dungeon is so thick, with the smell of old blood and damp stone. You can practically taste the trauma. Margrave Jaime Theodore is standing there, looking like a literal mountain of battle scars, and he's dropping some cold-blooded wisdom on our boy Yuri. He tells him straight up, to an orc, mercy isn't a virtue. It's an invitation to get your throat ripped out. And right on cue, we see exactly what he means. Poor Simon Peshu is currently being used as a stress ball by a massive gray-skinned beast. The kid's helmet is cracked, and he's gasping for air, while the orc's hand is clamped around his neck like a vice. Hernando is about to lose his mind and jump in, but Jaime stops him. He's basically like, "Relax, we cut its tendons, so it won't kill him." But the kid needs to learn the weight of his own life before he carries anyone else's. Talk about some aggressive coaching. The orc is actually playing it smart, using Simon as a human shield, while screaming some guttural nonsense. That sounds like a blender full of rocks. Jaime calls for a translator, and out of the shadows creeps Corey. This guy is a half-orc, looking absolutely terrified with his gray skin and tiny tusks. He's shaking as he translates the beast's demand, "Drop your weapons or I start breaking." The knight's bones like matchsticks. To prove he's not bluffing, the orc squeezes, and you can literally hear Simon's armor buckling. But Yuri, our prince, is cooler than a polar bear's toenails. He doesn't even flinch. He just looks at Roland, our resident blonde mage, and gives him the nod. Roland steps up, emerald magic hissing around his fingers, like a nest of angry vipers, and bam! He unleashes a flashbang of pure magical energy. The orc is blinded. Its grip loosens for a split second, and that's all Yuri needs. He turns into a silver blur, crossing the room in 3 strides, and snatching Simon out of the monster's grasp. Before the beast even knows what hit him, the orc hits the floor, and Jaime drops the lure bomb. This isn't just any orc. It's a veteran killer that was caught eating a knight for breakfast. Hernando is ready to turn the thing into Swiss cheese, but Yuri catches his shoulder with a grip of iron. He tells him to look behind the beast. The shadows are literally blinking back at them. Tens, maybe dozens of red eyes are watching from the darkness. Yuri tells his squad to lock in. This is training. On his command, the knights draw their swords, and the steel starts humming with a brilliant blue enchantment, like they just activated a power-up. A fire cage is hurled, the room erupts in flames, and Roland throws up a massive blue barrier to keep the squad crispy clean. While the orc gets absolutely deleted by a coordinated strike, Simon is standing there shaking, covered in soot, and realizing he almost met his maker, Yuri hits him with a slow clap. He tells them to be thankful to Jaime, because out on the plains, the orcs won't have their tendons cut, but the horror show is just getting started. Jaime takes them deeper into the Museum of Misery and opens a final iron door. Inside, it's a straight-up nightmare. Humans and orcs fuse together, half-orcs chained to the walls, groaning in a low, rhythmic dirge. Simon is literally gagging, realizing these byproducts are the result of orcs using humans as toys. It's dark, fam. Yuri sees the hatred in Jaime's eyes and realizes they're both driven by the same thing, a burning desire for revenge. Jaime lost his son to these beasts, and Yuri lost his entire kingdom to the Empire. Different enemies, same energy. The next morning, the sun is trying to pretend the world isn't a dark place. The squad is gearing up to move out, and Jaime hands over Corey, the translator, to join Yuri's unit. Corey is terrified, worried about his status as a half-breed, but Yuri shuts that down immediately. Shh. He gives the guy a high-quality leather bracer, basically telling him, "You're with me now, act like it." Respect points through the roof. They hit the road toward the border, the supply wagons creaking as they head into the dense forest. Raymond is all like, "Don't worry, with these numbers, nobody's gonna ambush us." Bruh, you just had to say it, didn't you? The horses start whinnying, the air gets cold, and suddenly, bam, the path is blocked. It's not orcs this time. It's a group of riders with eyes hungrier than the monsters in the dungeon. The leader has long dark hair and a scar that screams, "I don't have a dental plan." He smirks. His horse rears up, and he raises a wicked-looking rod-like weapon. The training wheels are officially off, and the war for the border is starting with a bang. The ground is shaking, fam. We've got Yuri Briol leading the charge on a massive black horse, looking like a total menace in that silver armor. The red flag is waving. The dragon crest is screaming, "Don't mess with us." And Yuri, he's in full gamer focus mode. He's not just riding, he's calculating every move, like he's playing 4D chess. Behind him, the knights are locked in, but the silence of the woods is enough to give anyone the creeps. Roland slides up next to him, looking all fancy with his blonde hair and cravat, and they start whispering about Corey, our secret half-orc translator. People might lose their minds if they find out his lineage, but Roland's basically like, "Yeah, Hernando can handle the drama." Yuri isn't laughing, though. He pulls out a map that's covered in red lines, like a failed math test, and starts plotting his next move. He calls over Gerald, the blonde knight, and tells him it's time for some solo scouting duty. Gerald looks like he just saw a ghost. Scouting in monster territory? No thanks. But watch our prince work. He pulls the ultimate helpless maiden act. He's like, "Oh, I'm just a weak little prince. I have nobody else to turn to." And Gerald's ego just explodes. He screams, "I'll be back," and zooms off like a rocket. Yuri's just standing there like, "Works every time." Old man Raymond rolls up and calls him out on his manipulation, but then things get deep. Yuri asks the big question, "Why do you fight?" Raymond drops the heavy truth. It's all for the safety of the kingdom. No flashy speeches, just pure duty. Yuri gives him a rare, genuine smile, but then he catches a scent. He blurs through the forest to find Gerald standing over a tied-up bandit. Yuri gets straight to business, holding a dagger to the guy's throat. He finds a weird red gem necklace, pulsing with bad vibes. The bandit is weeping like a baby, saying their leader made them wear it. Yuri's eyes light up. An artifact? Oh, he's definitely taking that leader down. Gerald and the squad finally catch up, thinking they're about to have a tactical meeting. But Yuri? He's got zero chill. He tells them to handle the chaos, and then yeets himself into the camp. He's screaming, "Charge!" while the bandits are just sitting around eating bread. 1 second they're yawning. The next, Yuri is a sapphire-colored hurricane. He's sending bodies flying, blades humming with mana, absolute destruction. He stops in front of a terrified dude and hits him with the most terrifying, "Hello, my bandit friends," you've ever heard. By the time the rest of the knights burst in, the camp is a junkyard. Yuri is just chilling on a log, wiping blood off his sword like he just finished a morning jog. Gerald is losing it, nagging him about safety. But our prince just wants dinner. He's already hijacking the bandits' barbecue for some field skewers. But as the fire crackles, Raymond drops some real lore. Their next stop is Gid, where they're gonna run into the Holy Kingdom's army. And the leader? A princess, who's losing a royal power struggle and is desperate for a win. She's standing on a mountain in white armor, looking beautiful but carrying those glowing orange-red eyes that scream, "I will burn this world down for a promotion." The stakes just got astronomical. The wind is howling through the dark forest like a restless spirit, but our boy Yuri is just vibing in the shadows. He's ditched the royal drip for some sturdy leather and black gloves, looking more like a high-level rogue than a prince. He's got that look in his eye again. The "I'm 5 steps ahead of you" look. He's thinking about that princess from the Holy Kingdom. The political stakes are rising, and Yuri knows. The board is about to get messy. Old man Raymond rolls up, offering to send out more scouts, but Yuri just hits him with that smug, predatory smirk. Why send scouts when he can just go see her himself? Man is built different. They're heading straight for Gid, a city of stone, an iron that's basically the Amazon warehouse of this war. It's got a strategic monopoly on everything, and the local law is no joke. You mess up in Gid, you're not getting a fine. You're getting a death sentence. Yuri tells Raymond to keep the boys on a tight leash, no drunk brawls, no ego trips. because the Breel Knights have a habit of being, well, a bit too extra. After setting up camp, Yuri decides it's time for some diplomacy. He enters the Lord's reception room, which smells like expensive incense and high-tier tax brackets. The Lord of Gid is a total unit, massive white beard, red fur coat, and a gem around his neck that probably costs more than a small village. Gizal smiles, fanboying over Yuri's dad, and how the orcs are probably shaking in their boots now that a Brial prince is here. Yuri's playing along, being the perfect noble, until a side door opens and things get spicy. An aide whispers something. The Lord's eyebrows hit the ceiling, and then, bam! The doors fly open. Enter Sivilla Arsant, the second princess of the Holy Kingdom. She's rocking white plate armor, a red sash, and an aura of pure don't talk to me energy. She looks at Yuri, sees his travel-worn clothes, and legit asks if he's the Lord's servant. The audacity. Her guard starts screaming his lungs out because Yuri didn't stand up yelling about respect like he's in a drill sergeant competition. Yuri just blinks, lets the silence hang for a second, and then drops the ultimate mic drop. Oh, I'm the third Prince of Brial. Bro, the instant regret in that room was enough to power a city. The guard looks like he's seen a ghost, and the princess is turning redder than her own sash. Yuri, being the absolute troll he is, starts acting all distraught, lamenting how he looks like a homeless man because he didn't dress fancy. It's pure psychological warfare. After the embarrassment settles, Yuri decides they're best friends now because there's only a 2-year age gap. He's being all casual, but then the tone shifts. He warns her that the orcs in these parts aren't just big, they're smart and love a good ambush. Later, Yuri's hitting the streets of Ged with Roland, who's got some spicy intel. He shows Yuri a red crystal necklace. That's basically an orc magnet. It's a war drug. If an orc smells this, they go full Hulk smash mode. Yuri realizes someone's been buying these up, and that's a major red flag. But wait, the drama isn't over. They spot some Brial soldiers gambling in a tavern, and Yuri's got that devious golden glow in his eyes. He's about to school his own men, but someone else beats him to it. Fennec, the Holy Kingdom's vice captain, walks in, looking like he swallowed a dictionary of insults. He's trash-talking Brial, calling them unruly and weak, and then he starts screaming at the soldiers. He's mid-rant, feeling all high and mighty, when a gloved hand suddenly grips his shoulder. The temperature in the room drops to sub-zero. Yuri is standing right behind him with a smile. That screams, "You just made a massive mistake." He leans in, voice cold as ice, and asks, "What's her name?" The garrison hall is flickering with torchlight, and the tension is so thick you could cut it with a butter knife. Our boy Yuri is just standing there in his casual travel gear, looking completely unimpressed, while Fennec, the Holy Kingdom's vice captain, with the lavender hair and the "I'm better than you" attitude, starts running his mouth. This guy is decked out in ornate white plate armor and a red cape, looking like he's ready for a photo shoot while lecturing Yuri about discipline. He's literally looking down his nose, calling Yuri a prince in name only, and mocking him for gambling with the soldiers. He even asks if Yuri's hands are only meant for shuffling cards instead of holding a sword. Bro, do you even know who you're talking to? The disrespect is off the charts. But then, the temperature in the room drops about 40 degrees. Yuri's eyes turn into cold glass, and he lets out this dangerous low chuckle. He steps right into Fennec's personal space, looking like a predator that's bored of its food. He asks for his name again, reminding this clown that he's talking to royalty. The "I'm a spoiled prince" act is gone, replaced by an aura so heavy, it feels like Fennec is getting crushed by a giant's hand. Fennec is literally shaking, his arrogance shattering like a cheap vase until, bam, the door swings open and Princess Sivla walks in. She's the actual commander, and she's not happy. She catches Fennec mid-bullying session and roasts him for being in a tavern when he should be on patrol. Fennec goes from a lion to a scared puppy in 2 seconds, bowing so low he's basically part of the floor before scurrying away. Seville is exhausted, but Yuri just hits her with a bright smile, acting like the whole thing was just a funny misunderstanding. He drops a low-key fire line about how a wise leader knows which fires to let burn, and you can tell Sivala is starting to realize our boy is playing 4D chess. But the peace doesn't last long. A messenger on a horse covered in foam and blood thunders into the town square. The main force of the Holy Kingdom just got ambushed by a massive warband of orcs in the valley. It's absolute chaos. Sivol gears up instantly, but when the Lord of Gid suggests asking Yuri's army for help, Fennec, who clearly hasn't learned his lesson, starts screaming that they don't need help from card-playing vagabonds. The pride on this guy is going to get them all killed. Sibylla leads the charge out of the gates, leaving a trail of dust. But the Lord of Gid is a real one. He knows the Holy Kingdom is being stubborn, so he sends a secret messenger straight to Yuri. Cut to the Breel camp, and man, the vibe has shifted. Yuri is no longer the casual traveler, he's in full black and silver dragon armor, looking like a straight-up final boss. He sends a knight named Roy to the pub to tell his men that only the first 10 to show up get to join the vanguard. You already know those boys are sprinting. Moments later, Yuri is leading a lethal cavalry unit through the moonlight. Lawrence is riding next to him, absolutely fanboying over Yuri's mercy and wisdom, while poor Jared is in the back, looking like he's about to lose his lunch from the speed. They reach the ridge and see the disaster below. A sea of green-skinned orcs is swallowing the holy knights whole. Yuri's face goes stone cold. It's go time. He activates the soul severance mana. Blue steam starts pouring out of his armor, and his eyes flare with a spectral light. His horse literally catches fire with blue soul flames, looking like a demonic nightmare. Yuri rears back, his voice echoing across the battlefield like thunder, commanding his men not to get hurt. Before he dives into the valley like a falling star of azure destruction, the orcs have no idea what's about to hit them. The sky is heavy with the smell of iron and death as the moonlight shines down on the absolute carnage in the valley. Princess Sevilla is charging at the head of her unit, her silver armor glowing like a ghost. But inside, she's screaming. She's replaying Yuri's warning in her head, like a bad song on repeat. Our boy told her the orcs would come from inside the border, and she blew him off with that royal, I know better attitude. Well, look where that got you, sis. The pupils in her eyes are blown wide, as she realizes she just led her men into a literal meat grinder. Suddenly, the ground starts shaking. Massive, hunched-over silhouettes are cresting the ridges. These are just orcs. They're a tide of muscle and malice. Sevilla sees her flag still flying and decides it's now or never. She yells for Fennec, and these two ride out, like they're in a Fast and Furious movie, Horse Edition. Fennec screaming, "Charge!" and they're flying across the battlefield, clods of dirt hitting the camera as they go for the enemy's throat. Sevilla is praying to the Lord for strength, but the enemy has a surprise waiting. Beneath their hooves, a massive skull-themed trap starts humming with a nasty purple light. It's a literal pit of death. The ground collapses, and the vanguard of the Holy Kingdom is swallowed whole. Sevilla is falling through the blackness. And man, the trauma starts hitting. We get a glimpse into her past, a child prodigy who picked up a sword, just to please some greedy priests. She even beat her own brother in a duel. But that toxic snake just turned his envy into a death sentence, sending her to this war, hoping she'd never come back. Talk about a messed up family tree. She's lying in the dirt, bruised and broken. When she realizes it's about to get worse, the floor isn't covered in water, it's oil. The orcs are standing on the ledge with torches, ready to turn this pit into a giant air fryer. Sevilla's looking up, her brown eyes reflecting the flames, thinking this is the end, until a flash of blue light cuts through the dark like a lightning bolt. An orc's head comes rolling into the pit, and who do we see standing on the edge? Our boy Yuri Briel, looking like an absolute unit, in his black and silver dragon armor. He's got that signature smirk on his face as he asks, "Is it that hard to ask for help?" Bro, the timing! He throws a rope down, pulls Sevilla out with that inhuman MC strength, and suddenly the vibe is completely different. Even Fennec, the guy was talking all that trash earlier, takes off his helmet and bows so low. He's basically doing a yoga pose. He's begging for forgiveness. And Yuri? He's playing 4D chess as usual. He accepts the apology, but tells them he expects the Holy Kingdom to have his back next time. Total power move. But the party's cut short because a roar that literally shakes the mountains echoes through the pass. The orc army is retreating, but not before their commander. This mountain of muscle named Orgval decides to leave a parting gift. He draws a black bone bow and fires a purple flaming demonic arrow straight at Yuri's head. It's screaming through the air, but Yuri doesn't even blink. He steps in front of Sevilla and swats that projectile out of the sky like it's a stray fly. Orgval is fuming, retreating into the shadows, while Yuri just stands there in the moonlight. He knows the game is just getting started, and he's ready to take the bait. The sky is literally raining purple death. These aren't your average arrows, they're dripping with necrotic rot. That's melting the grass before it even hits the ground. It's giving total end-of-the-world vibes, but look at our boy Yuri. Does he look worried? Not even a little. He's standing there with that signature you really shouldn't have done that smirk. He knows he's the main character. And Orgval, you just signed your own death warrant, buddy. Yuri's rocking that silver plate armor, so shiny. You can see the orcs' fear in the reflection. And that black bat crest on his chest, pure intimidation. His midnight blue hair is catching the wind, as his blade starts singing with a cool blue mana aura. That's basically a big keep-out sign for that purple necro gunk. He adjusts his grip, casually mentions he needs to respond to this provocation, and then just starts walking up the hill. Alone. He's walking into a literal meat grinder like he's taking a stroll in a park. Sevilla is losing her mind, screaming for him to wait. her red cape fluttering as she tries to stop the madness. But Yuri just hits her with a casual, "I'll be back," and vanishes. He's not just running, he's a human railgun. He becomes a blur of silver and blue light, slamming into the orc front lines like a comet hitting the earth. One massive orc tries to get lucky with a swing, screaming "Yukarukak," but Yuri's blade is already home. It's like cutting through warm butter with a lightsaber. He's moving with a focus that's honestly terrifying. We get a quick flashback to 5 years ago with his mentor Bernard, basically explaining that while everyone else is playing checkers, Yuri is a literal combat genius. Bernard called it the heart-soul slash. It's not just a move, it's Yuri intuitively seeing the optimal sword path. Back in the present, Yuri's eyes turn into sharp gemstones, as the entire battlefield becomes a geometric puzzle for him to solve. 3 elite orcs think they have a chance? 3-1? Yuri likes those odds. He starts spinning like a Beyblade of doom, executing a high-speed centrifuge of destruction, blue energy arcs everywhere. And suddenly, the elite guard is looking like a chopped salad. He lands in a low crouch, breathing steady, while the orcs are literally frozen in fear. He's a bit annoyed. His body isn't fully keeping up. Bro, if this is you lagging, I don't want to see you on high-speed fiber. To put the cherry on top, Yuri picks up a random orc spear, pumps it full of blue mana until it's humming, and launches it at Orcval like a tactical nuke. The impact is a total boom moment, sending shockwaves through the forest. Yuri is just standing there hundreds of yards away, wearing that irritatingly handsome grin. Orcval is fuming, his ego absolutely shattered, and he finally realizes he's outclassed. He barks the order to fall back, and the orcish horde, the same ones who were acting all tough earlier, starts running away like they saw a ghost. Yuri's just chilling, wiping a bit of blood off his cheek, like it's a minor inconvenience. Sevilla runs up, looking for wounds, but Yuri just laughs it off. He asks her how her first victory feels, and she can't even find the words. She just bows her head with pure respect. It's a win for the Alliance. But deep in the shadows, Orcval is slamming his fist into trees like a toxic gamer who just lost a rank match, promising that this war is far from over. We're swapping the battlefield for a cozy tavern, but don't let the firelight fool you. The vibes are still 100% chaotic. While the rest of the world is freezing outside, our boy Jared is inside, absolutely plastered and yelling at the top of his lungs. He slams his mug down like he's trying to break the table, beer flying everywhere. Just to tell 2 sharp soldiers about Yuri's latest feat, he's recounting how His Highness snatched a torch from a pit like a total boss W shoch. No fear, just pure main character energy. The soldiers are sitting there with their mouths hanging open, pasta literally falling off their forks. One of them admits he thought Yuri was just a lucky gambler with 0 combat skills. Big mistake. Jared's drunk grin vanishes instantly, replaced by a gaze so sharp it could cut through stone. He's like, "Listen here, you casuals. Yuri's bloodline is the peak of this entire lineage." He's ready to narrate every single one of Yuri's wins, if that's what it takes to shut the haters up. But while Jared's being the ultimate hype man, there's a total predator lurking in the corner. Asana is sitting in the shadows, her purple eyes cold and calculating. She's thinking about Yuri, and honestly, she's a little spooked. She's realized Yuri isn't just royalty he's unnatural. He saw through her secret assassination techniques, like they were written in crayon. She's convinced he's playing 4D chess, and might actually be seeing the future. She doesn't stick around for the tavern's rowdy vibes. She's got a lead on a mysterious swordsman from the east, a guy with brown hair, who speaks like the words are made of lead. And get this, eats his risotto with 0 spices. Seriously, who does that? Asana drops a gold coin like a total high roller, and heads for Balshad, realizing this mystery swordsman is a predator following Yuri's scent. If she doesn't get there first, Yuri's predicted future might just end in a bloodbath. Fast forward a few days, and Yuri's military unit is moving through the woods like a great black serpent. Yuri is riding a coal-black warhorse, looking like a total legend in his silverbat armor. Even after a grueling march, the men are locked in and disciplined. Yuri's checking the perimeter when he hears a classic anime trope bullies. 2 armored clowns are cornering Corey, a half-orc boy, calling him a spy and a leech, just because of his looks. They even steal his wooden trinket. But just as the lead bully is about to break it, a shadow falls over them. Yuri steps out of the brush, and the temperature drops by about 40 degrees. He doesn't even have to shout. He just hits them with that "get lost" growl. That has them running away, and screaming apologies like they just saw a ghost. Yuri sits down with Corey, and instead of just giving him a participation trophy, he gives him the ultimate life advice. Don't be a charity case. Become a mage. He tells the boy to learn from Hernando, because a half-orc is a monster, but a half-orc mage, that's someone people have to respect. But the heart-to-heart is cut short, because the night is about to get explosive. Just as Yuri's discussing defense tactics with his advisors, the camp is rocked by a massive boom. It's not just an attack, it's a purple fire nightmare. Barrels of oil soaked in corrupted chaos mana are raining down like a gender reveal party gone horribly wrong. Even Hernando, the pro mage, is losing his mind. Because orcs shouldn't be able to use high-level sorcery bombs, the camp is turning into a purple inferno. But does Yuri panic? Please. He draws his blade, and it doesn't just glow. It erupts in a roaring sapphire blue mana aura. That pushes the darkness back. He orders his men to protect the supplies. But for himself, he's going straight to the source. Our boy is charging into the purple flames, looking for the guy who dared to ruin his quiet night. The air on the outskirts is thick, with the smell of ozone and copper. But standing right in the middle of the smoke is Yuri, looking like he just stepped off a high-budget cinematic poster. His silver armor is catching the firelight, and that blue mana aura, it's humming so loud you can practically feel the vibrations. This isn't just some royal brat playing soldier. Our boy is a regressor with the weight of the future on his shoulders and a sword basically an extension of his soul. He spots Hernando, the group's resident high-tier mage, and asks the million-dollar question, where's that spell coming from? Hernando points to a pulsing dark light in the distance, and without even a see ya later, Yuri launches himself like a literal human railgun. He's not running, he's leaping through the air, trailing ribbons of azure energy like a silver comet. He lands right in the middle of a literal charnel house, hot, wet, and absolutely brutal. But then, the camera zooms into Yuri's eye, and we see it a reflection of pure malice. Emerging from the fog is a titan of a creature, a mountain of meat and hatred known as Orkval. This isn't your average fodder orc. This guy is an elite. With sickly white skin, glowing crimson eyes, and a gargantuan battle axe draped in a blood-soaked flag, Yuri looks like a child compared to this monster. But his aura doesn't flicker for a second. He recognizes this beast from his past life, the guy who specialized in tearing down fortresses. Yuri just hits him with a smirk, and asks if he's the one behind that pathetic spell. Talk about nerves of steel. The clash is instantaneous and volcanic boom. Steel meets obsidian, sending sparks flying into the night sky. Like a deadly fireworks show, Orkval isn't just strong. He's got veteran combat instincts, catching Yuri's blade and trying to crush him under pure weight. But then, things get weird. The orc's axe starts glowing with a nasty purple and red miasma. He slams it down and the earth literally shatters. Yuri is backflipping through the air like an Olympic gymnast, dodging a relentless barrage of purple-tinged strikes. This is when Yuri realizes the terrifying truth. This orc isn't just using raw strength. He's using a mana method. An orc warrior with internal energy cultivation? That's like a raid boss learning how to use cheats. But instead of panicking, Yuri gets that dark, confident look in his eyes. If the enemy is an elite, he can finally stop holding back. He adjusts his grip. His sword, guilty, starts vibrating at the frequency of a soul, and he screams it out. Heart soul slash. It's a blur of silver and blue. Yuri predicts the trajectory, finds the tiniest gap in the orc's mana defense, and carves right through his mech. Blood sprays everywhere. And even though the orc tried to reinforce his skin, at the last microsecond, the damage is done. Yuri doesn't give him a breath. He leaps into the air, blotting out the moon, and brings a vertical finishing blowdown that slams Orkval's shoulder into the dirt. Silence falls over the clearing. As Yuri stands over the fallen elite, wiping blood from his chin with the coolest composure you've ever seen. The soldiers finally rush in, panting and terrified, seeing the legendary Orkval face down in the mud. Yuri just sheathes his blade, tells them to round up the survivors, and decides to keep the big guy alive. Why? Because an elite orc knows secrets, and our boy is ready to start the most intense interrogation session of the century. The thick scent of pine resin and iron-heavy blood hangs over the Briel camp like a funeral shroud, and right in the center of it all, the flames are dancing like they're hungry for more. Our boy Yuri is standing there, silhouetted against the glowing coals, looking every bit like the third Prince of Shadows, with that back crest on his armor catching the firelight. But even a legendary regressor needs a tune-up. Enter Hernando, the group's resident high-tier mage and full-time nagging mother hen. He's out here giving Yuri a literal mana massage, his hands glowing with yellow energy. As he knits those strained muscles back together, Yuri's looking absolutely disgruntled, like a kid being forced to eat his vegetables, especially when Hernando starts teasing him about a prince who can't lift his sword, being a prince who can't lead. Yuri almost loses his royal cool, ready to blow a fuse, but Hernando just finishes the job with a wink and a smile. Talk about a power dynamic. Just as Yuri's about to walk off, Hernando's like, "Hold up, your highness, I've got a surprise." And out of the shadows, soldiers drag out a literal gold-trimmed red velvet throne. In the middle of a muddy war camp, it's the ultimate flex. Hernando's out here making sure Yuri interrogates in style. Because majesty is non-negotiable, Yuri hits him with that dark, I'll allow it smirk, and takes his seat, looking down at the captives, like a god on a mountain of velvet. But the vibe shifts instantly, from comedy to cold-blooded reality. Yuri doesn't waste a second. He watches with zero emotion as a nameless orc is tossed straight into the fire pit, the screams cutting through the night like a serrated blade. Next up is the big guy, Orkval. Gerald, the ice-cold blonde knight, slams Orkval's face, inches away from the white-hot coals, while Yuri draws his sword, guilty, and coats it in that haunting blue mana. He offers a simple deal: answer the question, and you get a quick death. Yuri asks the name behind the raid, and when Orkval starts barking insults, Gerald doesn't wait for a translation, he just pushes that face closer to the heat. Finally, the truth spills out. The name Orkua hits the air, and suddenly, the atmosphere becomes heavy enough to crush a man's lungs. The king of the orcs. Yuri's mind flashes back to his past life, the visions of burning cities and a monster on a stone throne with a single glowing red eye. This is the guy who slaughtered knightly orders like they were dry glass. Orkval is literally shaking, begging for a pledge of safety, and Yuri, being the slyest player on the board, agrees with a wicked grin. He gets the intel. Orkwa knows their roots, and he's stronger than any being in the world. But Yuri just pulls out a glowing red necklace, looking like a predator who just found his prey. He tells the orc that humans are way crueler than they think. Sensing the trap, Orkval snaps his restraints with a roar. That shatters the wooden platform, lunging at Yuri with a purple mana-charged fist. But Yuri doesn't even flinch. He doesn't even stand up. In a blur of cold steel and blue light, Gerald moves like a ghost. One massive swing, a heavy THUD, and Orkval's head is spinning through the air before hitting the dirt. Yuri just stands up, looking at the dawn breaking on the horizon. The interrogation over and the real war finally beginning. Our boy isn't just surviving the future, he's hunting it. The night is thick and heavy, lit only by the flickering orange tongues of campfires that look like they're trying to swallow the darkness whole under that silver hook of a moon. The Allied force camp is breathing in ragged, exhausted gasps, looking like a wounded beast just trying to survive the chill. Inside the main medical tent, it's a total war zone of its own. The air is thick with the metallic tang of blood, and the sharp sting of herbs, and the silence? Yeah, that's gone, replaced by a symphony of pure suffering. We've got soldiers groaning, pleading, and clinging to life, but right in the center of the carnage stands Saint Germain of Briol. This man is a straight-up pillar of grace, his white hair catching the golden glow of the mana radiating from his palms, like he's a literal lighthouse in a sea of red-stained sheets. He's moving with a calm rhythm, his fingers dancing over a soldier who got ripped open by an orcish blade, and as that gold mana seeps into the flesh, the tremors finally stop. The saint is on a divine mission, barking orders to Gerald and our half-Orser buddy Corey to keep the momentum going. Corey brings over a bucket of basic well water, but Germain isn't about that ordinary life. He closes his eyes, starts a low incantation, and suddenly, the water starts generating its own light. It turns into a swirling vortex of ethereal gold, holy water that cleanses the rot and chases the darkness away. Corey is standing there absolutely floored, watching the blackish hue of infection vanish wherever the water touches. He's seeing a side of magic he never knew existed. Not a weapon of destruction, but a power that reaches into the soul to pull it back from the brink. As the hours bleed into dawn, the jagged screams soften into the rhythmic breathing of sleep. Corey looks at his own hands built for labor and violence, and they're trembling. He looks over at our boy Yuri Briol, who's been watching the whole time with that unreadable high IQ expression, and it finally clicks. This is real magic. When the sun finally cracks over the mountains, the crew gathers outside to catch their breath. Saint Germain is looking years older from the strain, but Yuri is looking at the soldiers. He sees Briol men and Empire men, who were literally separate entities yesterday, now helping each other like brothers. To seal the vibe, Yuri gives Hernando the signal. Hernando raises his hand, and boom! He releases a burst of mana that drifts up like glowing dandelion seeds, weaving into a massive, shimmering aurora across the sky. Emerald, violet, and gold ripples are dancing against the fading stars, and for a moment the fear of war just evaporates. Corey is so moved he's practically in tears, and he drops the big question: can you teach me magic? He wants to make people smile even when the world is dark, and Hernando gives him that proud sensei nod. But the peace is short-lived because the thundering of hooves breaks the silence. A messenger sprints in, looking like he's seen a ghost. Knights from the Empire have arrived, and they're demanding to see the prince. Yuri doesn't miss a beat, strapping on his black and gold armor and heading out to meet them. Two riders are waiting. One is Rapio Artem, a flashy knight with a practiced smile and shiny plate armor. He's doing the formal greetings, talking about scouting the Bolshad territory, but Yuri's eyes are locked on the man standing in the back. This second knight hasn't even dismounted. He's trying to fade into the shadows, looking pained and broken. He finally steps forward, bowing so low his chin hits his chest, identifying himself as Grandma Man who lost his title and is now just a volunteer. Inside Yuri's head, sirens are going off. He remembers this man from his past life. In the old timeline, Graham Hartful was a titan, a hero of the Empire who stood over a dying Yuri with unbearable knightly pride. Our boy literally begged for his life from this man once. Now, seeing this legendary warrior hollowed out and discarded as a scapegoat by the Empire's corrupt politics, Yuri sees the ultimate opportunity. While Rapio is busy defending Graham's honor, Yuri steps up with a wide, genuine smile. The kind that spells trouble for his enemies. He tells Graham that his reputation precedes him even in Brial. And as the wind flutters the camp banners, Yuri reaches out his hand. He's not here for a grudge, he's here to recruit a goat. He looks Graham dead in the eye and drops the offer. That's about to change the entire meta of this war. Would you like to join us? Not as a volunteer for the Empire, but as a knight of Brial? Our boy Yuri is standing there, in that cold flickering candlelight, looking like a total predator, who's already seen the end credits of this world, and decided to hit the New Game Plus button. He's got the silver and black drip on, looking absolutely regal, and he drops the big question to Sir Graham. He reaches out a gloved hand, offering him a spot in Briol, looking at this man with a weird, sad warmth. Across from him, Graham is looking like he survived 100 wars. Dented armor, matted hair, the whole I need a vacation vibe. Yuri's thinking back to his past life, remembering a cold, rainy night, when he was just a scared kid running for his life. In that timeline, Graham was the one who lowered his sword and let Yuri live, and he paid for that mercy with his own life. Yuri is basically trying to pay back a debt that hasn't even happened yet. But Graham, he's got that old-school loyalty baked into his bones. He gives a slow, respectful bow and turns down the offer. Yuri just smiles that peaceful, I knew you'd say that smile. He's not even mad. He's just disappointed that the goat is too loyal for his own good. Fast forward a few days and the wind starts to change. The squad pulls up to the horizon and damn, Valshard is looking absolutely massive. We're talking a sprawling metropolis, built right over the shimmering grasslands, connected by giant stone bridges and reinforced with literal magic walls. Yuri's eyes are popping out of his head. He's even got that chibi-style shock going on. He's thinking he's about to meet some dusty old mage with a beard down to his knees, especially after Hernando gives him that super creepy malicious grin and warns him not to get eaten alive. Talk about a mood killer, Hernando. Yuri's imagining some grumpy old geezer lecturing him, but when the palace doors swing open, change of plans. There's no old man here. Instead, we get the Duchess herself, Marie-Rose Entree. She's rocking a vibrant red dress, long crimson hair, and a smile that screams, I'm beautiful, but I will definitely end you. Yuri is standing there like, wait, this isn't a grandpa? And Hernando is just in the back with a told you so smirk. At the banquet, Marie-Rose is leaning in, all real close to Yuri, trying to use that 10-10 charisma to sway the prince. She's teasing him about his age. But Yuri, our boy is a cold, calculated professional. He's not here for the flirting. He's here for the war. He shuts down the small talk and turns his gaze toward the Brucin knights across the hall. These guys look like they just got off a Viking ship, rough, tough, and ready to scrap. Yuri decides to choose absolute violence with his words. He looks at the wine Jonathan Eagle pours him and basically calls it trash. He's calling them hicks and saying their liquor isn't fit for a backwater country. The Brucin knights are absolutely losing it. One guy, Froen, is literally ready to crash out right then and there. But Jonathan Eagle is a real one. He sees right through Yuri's provocation. He realizes Yuri is testing their backbone before the alliance starts. Yuri's just smirking like, so can you prove you're not just loudmouths? Marie-Rose is loving every second of this drama. She's basically the audience right now, just sipping her wine and watching the chaos. She leads them all to a massive stone tower for a little sparring session. Down in the pit, it's Laurent from the Briel squad versus the hothead Froen. On the balcony, Yuri is watching like a hawk. He knows that in the future timeline, one of these men is destined to become one of the 10 strongest on the entire continent. He's scout reporting for Legends. The two warriors shake hands, but the tension is thick enough to cut with a dagger. Froen is grinning like a maniac, ready to show off, while Laurent is standing there like a stone wall. The blades are drawn, the torches are flickering, and the real test of strength is about to go down. The atmosphere suddenly shifts, diving into a void thick with the scent of sulfur and old blood. A voice ancient, cold, and sounding like it's seen 1,000 empires fall, whispers about the weight of a name. In the heart of this darkness, a skeletal hand emerges, clicking like dry porcelain. This isn't just some spooky ghost. Shh. This is the Soul Severance manifestation, the ultimate deterrent of the continent. It moves a king chess piece with the chilling grace of a reaper, slamming it down for a checkmate. amidst a graveyard of fallen soldiers. Talk about an omen of carnage? But just as the darkness peaks, we're blinded by the sun of the training arena. Our boy Yuri is sitting pretty on his high-backed, noble chair, looking like the definition of main character energy. With those iron chains draped over his silver armor, he's not just watching a fight, he's scouting for his future Avengers team. He knows the best bromances start with a solid beatdown. Out in the sand, Laurent Flandre is looking like the peak of Briol's martial pride, standing across from Fruin, a Brucin knight who looks like he eats gravel for breakfast. Fruin starts the trash talk immediately, calling Laurent's skills noble pageantry and pampered swordplay. He lunges forward like a gale, swinging a blade heavy enough to shatter bones. But Laurent, he's cool as a cucumber. He moves with textbook precision, sliding through the sand like he's got cheat codes enabled. Fruin goes for a massive red energy slash, thinking he's got the W. But Laurent baits him. He takes the hit on his shoulder guard, cancels out Fruin's momentum with the flick of his wrist, and slides into his guard like a ghost. Boom! A blue-tinged counterslash sends Fruin stumbling. Match over. The respect is instant, with both warriors shaking hands because real recognize real. Yuri's just smirking from the balcony. 1-0, baby. But the Brucin commander, Jonathan Eagle, isn't sweating. He calls out his ace, Jose Erator. And man, this guy is a unit. He's carrying a great sword that looks more like a slab of raw iron than a weapon. Yuri decides to test his own squad and sends in Jared, who is literally shaking in his boots. The poor guy looks like he's about to fight a mountain. Jose doesn't even use two hands. He swings that massive slab with one arm like it's a toothpick. The sky literally turns red in Jared's eyes as the 10 Greats aura starts leaking out. Jose isn't just a powerhouse. He's mixing in martial arts and kicks, totally overwhelming our boy Jared. It's a total masterclass in violence. Yuri is leaning forward now, eyes wide, realizing he's looking at a future legend. The duel ends with a great sword at Jared's throat, but it's all love after the whistle. With the score tied at 1-1, Yuri calls it a day, feeling pretty good about his new allies. But before he can even catch his breath, the Duchess Marie-Rose Intre decides it's time for some one-on-one bonding. She moves in real close, her lace-covered hand grabbing Yuri's shoulder and pulling him into her space. Our cold-blooded prince actually breaks a sweat. As she leans in, her blue eyes locked onto his, teasing him about whether he's going to keep avoiding her. The tension just went from war council to dangerous romance real quick. The Duchess Marie-Rose isn't just leaning in. She's practically invading Yuri's personal bubble. With the grace of a high-level predator, her crimson hair is flowing like a waterfall of blood. And that black lace glove on his silver armor? Yeah, that's not a gesture of love, it's a tactical lock-on. She's whispering sweet nothings about politics, but her eyes are searching for any crack in our boy's stoic armor. Yuri might be a god-tier regressor on the battlefield, but in the face of this Archmage Duke's flirtation, he's looking like he's forgotten how to breathe. Just when it feels like the tension is about to hit a breaking point, the Duchess leans in even closer, her breath hitching as she asks if he's going to keep avoiding her. Yuri's literally sweating bullets now. He's faced death and demons, but this Duchess? She's the final boss of awkward conversations. He's stammering like a nervous schoolboy as she cups his cheek, her scent of roses filling the air. For a split second, the Duchess actually blushes. Wait, is the Ice Queen melting? But before Yuri can figure out if this is a genuine moment or just another layer of her 5D chess game, the atmosphere is shattered by the most glorious interruption ever. Jonathan Eagle rolls up with the subtleness of a charging rhino, shouting about seeing the Duchess's office. Man is a total vibe killer, and Yuri is absolutely elvying it. Marie-Rose's eye is literally twitching with rage, turning from a romantic predator to a frustrated manager in 0.2 seconds. She tries to invite Yuri along, but our boy sees an escape hatch and takes it. He flashes a smile so bright it could power a city, and sprints away, claiming he's got Kate business. He's not just walking, he's retreating, like his life depends on it. Back at the garden, the Duchess is basically radiating a scarlet aura of pure fury, while Jonathan's hearty laughter echoes in the background. Talk about a social disaster. But the petty drama takes a backseat because the war machine is moving. The Alliance has arrived at Balsad, and the city is now a forest of iron and silk. Flags from every nation are snapping in the wind. From the Empire's Golden Lion to the mysterious back crests of the Shadow Houses, it's a sight to behold, but the real showstopper is the Imperial Supreme Commander. He marches in looking like a walking sun, his red cape trailing behind him like a river of blood. This guy doesn't just walk, he commands the ground to stay still, while the big shots are playing secret games and trading ribbons. In the shadows, where's our MC? Yuri's stripped off the heavy armor for a simple linen shirt. Grinding away in the training field, his knighter Anando is panicking about politics and networking, but Yuri just keeps swinging that wooden blade. He knows the truth. This alliance is a house of cards held together by pride. Words won't make these guys work together. Only a display of absolute overwhelming strength will. And speaking of strength, it's time for a spar. Laurent Flandre steps up, and the air starts humming as he unleashes a hurricane of pure blue mana. He lunges forward like a streak of lightning. And boom! The sound of wood meeting wood sounds like a cannon blast. Yuri's boots are gouging furrows into the dirt as he holds back Laurent's explosive power. It's a masterclass in precision versus power. As they clash, Yuri gets a flash of the past SSS, a memory of the snow-covered ground, where Laurent was the one who delivered the final merciful blow to him in his previous life. That's the bond they share. Yuri isn't holding back. He unleashes his own mana, creating a shockwave that turns the training yard into a cloud of white and blue light. When the dust settles, they're both grinning like absolute madmen. Real recognize real, baby. Even the giant Jose Aditor is impressed, watching from the sidelines. He wants in on the action. But Yuri decides to have a little fun first. He points at the terrified, trembling Jared and lends him to the giant for a spar. Jose scoops the poor guy up like a sack of potatoes, while Jared screams for mercy. Comedy gold amidst the tension of war. As the sun sets, Yuri heads into the quiet shadows to catch his breath. But he's not alone. Asana flickers into existence like a ghost with an update. They found traces of the Stranger, the legendary Eastern swordsman and future member of the Ten Greats. In his past life, this man fought a lonely, bloody crusade against the monster Okua, but not this time. Yuri's eyes glow with a deadly resolve. He's gathering the ultimate Avengers team, and he's not letting any legend fight alone. The board is set, the pieces are moving, and Yuri Briel is ready to flip the script on fate itself. The golden lion crest of the Empire isn't just a logo, it's a warning label. This jagged gold crown has been presiding over battlefields for 1,000 years, and standing right under it is the man, the myth, the absolute unit, Ragnar Gustav Granzien, clad in gold and silver armor with a crimson cape trailing behind him like a river of blood. He's the Emperor's half-brother and the supreme commander of the Allied forces. He's got that "I've seen nations fall" beard and an aura that makes the ground want to apologize for being stepped on. But for our boy Yuri, that name isn't just a title, it's a memory. Suddenly, we're flashing back to a sun-drenched room filled with willies, and wait, is that Yuri holding hands with a princess? She's Ragnar's niece, and they're rocking matching silver rings like they're in a forbidden high school romance. Yuri's acting all smooth, telling her not to worry. Right as they're about to lean in for a kiss, and then the ultimate vibe check happens. Rania is just chilling on the couch like a jump scare, telling them to go play somewhere else because their flirting is ruining his nap. Talk about an awkward family reunion. Back in the present, the Alliance leaders are sitting around a table at Balsad Castle, busy playing politics and trying to score clout with the Imperial family. Yuri's just watching this circus with a cynical eye, knowing that while they're talking about networking, a storm is coming. And speaking of storms, the doors fly open and Ragnar marches in with a predatory grin. He doesn't just sit down. He slams his hand on the map so hard, it sounds like a cannon blast. Then he decides to drop a mana nuke on the room. He unleashes the Lion Heart technique, a golden flare of pure dominance that has everyone else gasping for air. He makes it clear he hates cowards, and if you run, he's cutting you down himself. While everyone else is shaking like a leaf, Yuri stands up and stares the lion right in the eye. He asks about the orc's strength, and Ragnar is instantly intrigued. He walks over and drops a heavy, gauntleted hand on Yuri's shoulder, a literal weight test for our MC. Rania reveals that a beast named Akua has unified the orc tribes, and the vanguard is right on their doorstep. He asks Yuri if he'll take the lead on this suicide mission, and our boy doesn't even flinch. He accepts the vanguard command like a total boss. As night falls, Yuri is sitting by the fire, looking heavy with the burden of command. Marie Rose Entre, the Archmage Duke, slides into the firelight looking way too elegant for a muddy camp. She's worried, but Yuri's gaze is fixed on his soldiers, the men who are laughing and sharing bread tonight, but might be cold corpses tomorrow because of his orders. He's not being sentimental. He's bearing the weight of a leader. This moves Marie Rose so much, she decides to go all out. She conjures a ball of fire in her hand, reminding Yuri that she's a literal archmage and she's got his back. They seal the pact with a firm handshake, and just like that, the dawn of war arrives. The ground begins to shake as the orc army charges, riding massive drakes with glowing red eyes and foul-smelling breath. Rania and Marie Rose are watching from the heights, but Yuri is at the front of the line. He draws his sword, the silver steel singing in the morning air. The Briel vanguard tightens its formation, banners snapping in the wind. As Yuri gives the command to prepare for the slaughter, the wind is howling across the plains of Balsad, carrying the scent of rain, and enough unsheathed steel to make a blacksmith rich. Up high, the Briel flag is snapping in the gale, a deep purple banner with a black bat crest. It looks like it's hunting for its next meal. And standing right under it is Yuri Briel, looking like he was carved out of pure obsidian. His face is lean, hard, and that single eye of his, It's burning with a determination so terrifying. The horizon should probably start running. He doesn't scream. He gives a command that vibrates straight into your bones. Behind him, the Brielle army is a literal sea of silver and black armor, sitting on warhorses that look ready to trample a mountain. Yuri isn't chilling in the back like a coward. He's at the absolute front, gripping a spear, polished to a mirror finish. This isn't just a vanguard, it's the tip of a spear, meant to pierce the heart of the enemy or shatter trying. Meanwhile, on the high ground, Supreme Commander Ragna is watching like an old lion surveying his pride, his golden armor catching the dim light. But wait, Marie-Rose Intre, our resident Archmage Duke, slides onto the platform with that "I'm the strongest" energy. Ranya's suspicious, asking why she's here, and she just drops a cryptic smile. She's here as a favor for a certain someone, and we all know she means our boy Yuri. Suddenly, a warhorn blasts and the time for talking is over. Yuri spurs his black stallion into a gallop, spear leveled at the orcish horde. He's got a squad with him. Jose Eratur with a feral grin, Jared the Archer-Ket, and the precision master Laurent Flandre. They are the wolves of Brielle, and they're hungry. Yuri pulls his visor down, his eyes glowing in the shadow, and lets out one final question. Are you ready? The roar back is enough to shake the earth. They charge at suicidal speeds toward the orcs. Massive, tusked hulks who think they're tough. Ron just sweating bullets on the sidelines, thinking Yuri is being reckless. But Marie-Rose just steps to the edge. Her staff starts glowing with the heat. That turns the air into a furnace. She launches a massive pillar of fire, a spiraling vortex of pure destruction that looks like a fallen star. Ranya is losing it, thinking the fire is gonna wipe out Yuri's team too. But Marie-Rose just smirks. Yuri doesn't even flinch as the meteor descends. He rides directly under the flames, using the chaos as a smokescreen. And then boom! A swirling dome of water magic erupts around the Brielle Knights, protecting them from the heat while they carve through the orcs. It's a dual elemental masterpiece. Yuri's sword erupts in blue light, and he's out here performing soul severance, swinging with enough force to create shockwaves. He's decapitating orc chieftains, while Jose goes into a full-blown red aura battle trance, laughing like a maniac. The Imperial troops finally jump in to mop up the mess, but the Brielle Knights already broke the orc spirits. Later that night, back at the castle, Marie-Rose is back to her elegant self, writing a report when a mysterious silver-haired man named Hernando literally spawns in her room. This guy is her former master, and they're talking about destiny and some high-level transcendental interpretation magic. It sounds like Yuri's path is even more important than we thought. But the real vibe check happens in the Imperial tent. Yuri stands before Ragna, covered in the soot of battle, probably expecting a good job, kid. Instead, Ragna drops a bombshell with a smug, calculated grin. He's sending Yuri on a scouting mission. A prince sent on a scout job? That's not a promotion. It's an insult. And the look on Yuri's face says he knows the real game has just begun. Inside that suffocating tent, the air is so thick you could cut it with a butter knife. Ranya is hunched over his map, like a blonde lion plotting his next meal. And Yuri? He's standing there like a pillar of obsidian, his black and silver armor soaking up the candlelight. When Ragna drops the words, "scouting mission," Yuri doesn't even blink, but his gaze is sharp enough to draw blood. He knows exactly what this is: a suicide run in the Eastern Meadows, a place where the grass is tall enough to hide an entire army of orcs, ready to rip your throat out. Yuri tries to play the fairness card, reminding Ragna that his Brielle Knights just carried the last battle on their backs and deserve a break. But Ragna just sighs, like he's listening to a boring bedtime story. He doesn't care about fairness, he only cares about results. And he's basically telling Yuri, I only trust you to get the job done. But wait, our boy Yuri isn't just a soldier, he's a strategist. He pulls a total pro-gamer move and suggests a little incentive for the other kingdoms. Suddenly, the vibe in the entire Alliance camp shifts. We cut to the Holy Kingdom's command center, where the princessa is staring at a decree like she just saw a ghost. Then there's Jonathan Eagle, a beast of a man who looks like he eats iron for breakfast, reading the same scroll with a hungry grin. And don't forget Jose Eratur, laughing over a barrel of ale, because he knows the game is on. Ranya has turned a dangerous mission into a great orc hunt. The rules? Whoever brings back the most orc ears gets the glory, and the best positions in the coming war. It's a literal battle royale in the middle of a monster-infested meadow. Back at the Brielle camp, Yuri's aide Hernando is reading the specifics, and even he's impressed. Yuri's plan worked. Every kingdom is volunteering now, just to avoid looking weak. Laurent, the blonde knight, is worried, because they aren't exactly stealth experts. But Yuri just gives him that signature, "I've got a plan" smirk. Morning hits, the sun rises cold, and Ragna stands before the scouting units like a god of war. He flips a golden hourglass, and boom, The sand starts falling and the race is on. Yuri and the Brielle squad are absolute blurs. Charging into the swaying amber grass of the meadows, Laurent is panicking because they aren't stopping to track or search, but Yuri is playing 4D chess. He pulls out a red crystal necklace, a literal monster lure he swiped from some bandits. He's not looking for the orcs, he's making the orcs come to him. And boy, do they show up. A troop of orcs on scaly reptilian mounts erupts from the grass, looking like a nightmare from a dark fantasy RPG. They've got glowing red eyes and enough muscles to crush boulders. But Yuri doesn't even break a sweat. He draws his blade, and it's a symphony of steel. Yuri is moving with supernatural precision, harvesting orc ears like he's trimming a hedge. The orc leader, draped in human teeth, swings a massive axe. That could split a house. But Yuri just dances around him and shuts him down with a brutal counter thrust. It's absolute carnage. Laurent thinks they've done enough with 10 years, but Yuri is just getting started. He pulls out a crystal-encrusted dagger and stabs it deep into the earth. Suddenly, kamoom! A massive pillar of holy golden light erupts from the ground, piercing the clouds and shaking the entire meadow. Surrounded by blue and gold flames, Yuri looks like a conqueror from the myths. He's not just scouting anymore. He's declaring that every single orc in this territory is officially on the extinction list. The void snaps back into a chilling reality. As the secret of the Brielle line finally reveals itself, this isn't just some rigid combat style. It's a living, breathing essence that bends to Yuri's absolute will. He's standing over the Quake Sword, an ancient relic that's literally plugged into the tectonic plates of the world. Yuri isn't just holding a blade. He's feeling the heartbeat of the earth through the marrow of his bones. He centers his breathing, rides the pulse. With a heart-soul slash, and boom! The world turns into a kaleidoscope of high-speed violence. Yuri is a streak of sapphire light, soaring through the air like a predatory bird, while orcs with skin like bruised plums try to track his movement. Spoiler alert, they can't. His consciousness expands, sensing everything, from the scurrying vermin underground to the heavy thud of orc boots miles away. He's basically playing with a full-map hack. But our boy is a perfectionist. He's still not satisfied. He lands among the carnage, adjusts his silver helmet, and drops a line colder than liquid nitrogen. We hunt until every last one of them is dead. Cut to the Allied Forces HQ where the vibe is heavy, and the sky is leaden. Orania Gustav Granzien, a man who looks like he eats lightning, and Kraps Thunder is standing over a massive table, watching the final grains of sand slip through an hourglass. It's Judgment Day. He calls for the scouts to submit their spoils, a kappa pouches of orc ears. And man, the second-hand embarrassment is our yield. Rania starts dumping bags, and nothing. Just dust and disappointment. He's literally roasting these knights to their faces, calling their bold move of bringing empty sacks pathetic. Then comes Jonathan Eagle, the bruising commander, who manages to scrap together 6 ears. Rania gives him a nod. Luck is a skill after all. Before showing everyone how the big boys do it, he dumps 12 ears onto the table. The crowd goes wild, whispering about the Empire's dominance. Jonathan is low-key sweating, realizing the power gap is getting wider by the second. Princessa Marie-Rose is just in the corner rolling her eyes, because she's tired of being background scenery for the Empire's flex. But then, a heavy blood-soaked bag slams onto the table. With a bone-jarring TH, the silence is absolute. It's the Brielle bag. Ranya's jaw hits the floor, and Jonathan's eyes nearly pop out of his head. Yuri just stands there with a casual, sly smile, wiping a smudge of orc blood off his cheek like he just finished a light jog. Rangya is actually breaking into a cold sweat, asking for the secret. But Yuri just plays it humble, just working hard, you know? Classic MC behavior. As night falls, the camp is buzzing, but the jealousy is brewing. Jared, Yuri's right-hand man, reports that other knights are looking for a reason to throw hands. But Yuri doesn't care about the haters. He's got bigger fish to fry, or rather, a shaman to grill. They've captured a live orc shaman who's screaming his lungs out in a mana-suppressing cage. The shaman keeps shrieking "Akawak-ia," and when Yuri asks for a translation, it means black dog. The orcs have given Yuri a nickname. He thinks he's getting a cool title like the wolf, but nope, he's being called the Emperor's Black Dog. Because he can smell orcs like a bloodhound. Yuri's pride takes a critical hit. He's fuming, his blue mana erupting in a dark aura that has everyone scrambling for cover. He's ready to kick the cage into the next dimension until Jared calms him down with some actual intel. Turns out, a powerhouse named Kurui from the Hill Tribe is waiting to turn the Allied forces into a buffet. Yuri shifts back into commander mode, planning the dawn strike, and goes to give his final report to Ragna. But Ragna has a different kind of trap waiting. He pours some wine, leans in, and asks Yuri if he's got a girlfriend. Yuri's internal alarm bells are screaming. Rangya mentions he has a very pretty niece, and Yuri's soul basically leaves his body. He's getting hit with an imperial matrimonial trap, A flash of a golden-haired princess from a past memory hits him like a freight train, pure chaos and drama. He bolts out of the tent, clutching his head, desperate for an escape route. And that's when he sees her, clad in white armor, glowing in the moonlight. Princessa Marie Rose Entree. Yuri stares at her with a worshipful, intense gaze, like she's a literal angel sent from the heavens. Marie Rose is completely weirded out, but in Yuri's head, he's already found his exit strategy. She's not just a rival anymore. She's his ultimate goddess of salvation from the Empire's leash. The night is a thick, ink-stained shroud, and our boy Yuri is standing under the flickering light of a solitary torch, looking like a main character, straight out of a tragedy. But he's not mourning, he's plotting. See, Ragnar's matrimonial trap is weighing heavier on him than his literal steel plate armor. He knows if he accepts the Emperor's arrangement, his soul is basically forfeit. So he needs a shield. Not a physical one, but a romantic one. He needs someone who doesn't catch feelings, but definitely owes him a solid. And just like that, his inner GPS locks onto the perfect target, Sibylla, aka Princess Marie Rose Entree. Poor girl is just standing there in her pristine white armor, probably minding her own business when Yuri swoops in like a predator. He grips her shoulder with a grin that screams, "I'm about to ruin your reputation for my own survival." He hits her with the classic, "Remember that time I saved your life?" line, and before she can even process the red flags, he's already jogging away, yelling, "I'll be in your care," loud enough for the whole camp to hear. Talk about a forced contract. And of course, the universe delivers the perfect witness. Sir Fennec, the purple-haired gossip king, he slides in with a massive thumbs up, telling Sibylla he totally ships them. Sibylla's face goes from confused to, "I wish the ground would swallow me whole real quick." Her soul has officially left the building, folks. Fast forward to the next morning, and the Briol cavalry is rolling out like a silver serpent through the mountains. But the vibe is totally off. The soldiers are snickering in the back, whispering about Yuri's supposed wedding bells, and our MC is about 2 seconds away from pulling a total shut-up move on his own troops. But the comedy stops the moment the sky turns black, not from clouds, but from crows. Thousands of them. It's a bad omen that hits like a freight train. Yuri spurs his horse forward into a narrow canyon, and what he finds is straight out of a horror movie. The orcs haven't just killed people. They've turned the gorge into a forest of bone and iron, impaling scouts and villagers on massive wooden poles, like macabre decorations. It's a psychological flex. Rania rides up looking at the carnage, with a sadistic smirk like he's judging an art gallery, but Yuri isn't amused. He knows the orcs are sending a message. You guys are just trash to us. As the Briol soldiers start the grim task of burning the bodies. To restore some dignity, the real trap snaps shut. Dyke and Guinness, 2 of the scouts, notice something terrifying. The arrowheads on the ground are pointing the wrong way. They weren't shot from the ground, they were shot from above. Before Guinness can even blink, a massive black arrow tears through the air and pierces clean through his neck. It's a total bloodbath. The canyon ridges crawl with orc archers, and the sky starts raining death. Dyke is paralyzed, waiting for the end. But then, boom! A blur of sapphire light shatters the atmosphere. Yuri Briole arrives like a literal thunderbolt, leaping from his horse with his hand on his hilt. Soul Severance. He swings his blade and a massive crescent of blue soul energy erupts, pulverizing the arrows into splinters before they can even touch his man. He checks on Guinness. The dude's barely hanging on by a thread, and Yuri immediately switches into 200 IQ commander mode. He tells Dyke to haul the wounded to the Holy Kingdom camp, using his fake relationship with Sibylla as the ultimate VIP pass. To get the medical help, now Yuri is standing alone in the center of the killing jar, staring up at the orc leader on the ridge. The orc looks down with pure arrogance, thinking they've already won. But that's his first mistake underestimating a Briol. Yuri's blue aura starts flickering like a ghostly inferno, and even the red gem on his sword is pulsing for blood. He heads back to Ragnar with a look that says, the fun is over. He tells the Emperor to use the archers as a distraction, because he's going to handle the ridge himself. No more playing around. No more doing just enough. Our boy is going full soul energy demon mode. And the orcs on that cliff? They're about to find out exactly why he's called the Black Dog. The war has officially reached a boiling point, and Yuri is ready to turn this canyon into an orc graveyard. The jagged teeth of the canyon of Briol are biting into a leaden sky, and high above the valley floor, tucked into the shadows of the ancient stone, the real monsters are waiting. These aren't your run-of-the-mill fantasy grunts. These orcs are pure sinew and malice, their gray skin blending perfectly with the granite, like some twisted tactical camo. They're looking down at the narrow pass, licking their tusks because they think it's dinner time, and the Alliance is the main course. Their leader is a literal mountain of a creature, scarred, bald, and rocking red eyes that scream, "I haven't had a Snickers in a century." He notches a massive black arrow, the wood groaning under his strength, ready to signal the massacre. But wait, the air doesn't hiss with orc arrows, it screams with human steel. Before the big guy can even release his shot, a volley of silver death hammers him backward. It's a total Uno reverse card. Ram Gustav Grancien is standing on the valley floor, looking like a literal god in his gold and silver plate armor, his red cape billowing like a river of blood. He didn't just bring archers, he brought aimbots. The Imperial archers are pinning the orcs to the rocks with disciplined fire, but Ragnar isn't even looking. He's the supreme commander for a reason. He knows the path is being cleared. He looks up at the vertical heights and says, "They'll leave the exterminating to someone else, and you already know who that is." While the archers provide cover fire, Yuri Briole decides that walking is for mortals. Our boy is literally sprinting up the vertical face of the cliff, clad in his dark backrest armor. He's moving with an explosive rhythmic grace that defies every law of physics. He's so fast his own elite squad is left gasping for air at the bottom. One of his knights literally collapses, crying out that the prince is too fast, and Yuri actually has a chibi moment in his head, thinking, how can a young man have such trash stamina? But the comedy ends there. The sun is setting, the horizon is bleeding purple, and Yuri knows if they don't take the heights now, the whole army is cooked. "Your Highness," his men shout. But Yuri isn't listening. He's igniting. He activates his soul severance, and suddenly brilliant blue flames erupt from his daggers. This isn't heat, it's pure ethereal energy. He starts launching the daggers into the cliffside, using them as glowing stepping stones. Clang, clang, clang. He's jumping through the air, his boots striking the hilts of his soul weapons. Like he's playing a high-stakes game of vertical hopscotch, he's a blur of black steel and blue fire, finally hauling himself over the ledge. And standing tall on the plateau, he bellows down to check on his men. And when they shout back, he doesn't wait. He charges straight into the heart of the orc nest. He lands in a perfect three-point stance, dust billowing, surrounded by a sea of snarling orcs. And what does our MC do? He hits them with that mocking aristocratic politeness. Oh gosh, how do I express my gratitude for this greeting? He adjusts his gauntlet, looking at the yellow tusks and the stench of the horde, and drops the line of the century. "Yeah, it's me, the Black Dog." The orcs lose their minds and lunge, but Yuri becomes a whirlwind of erasure. He's moving faster than their eyes can track, shearing through faces with blue soul blades, and snapping knees with crushing kicks. One brute tries to crush him with a mace, but Yuri blocks it like it's a feather, smirking because their weight means nothing to him now. Finally, the Briole soldiers scramble over the ledge, and seeing their prince soloing a whole battalion gives them the ultimate stat boost. They ignite their own blue soul blades, and the plateau turns into a systematic slaughterhouse. By the time the last DIE echoes out, the heights are cleared and the path is open. Rangna watches from below, a knowing smirk on his lips. As the blue lights fade, the Alliance passes through the canyon without a single casualty. A total flawless victory. Later that night, the camp is a sea of flickering fires, and Yuri is back at his desk, drowning in paperwork. A messenger drops by with a report about an orc underling named Kurui, but then comes the real spicy news. A message from the Princess of the Holy Kingdom, Sibylla. The messenger reads it with a straight face. "I'm annoyed you got so many roles, but if you need a coffin, I'll send you one." Total tsundere energy. The soldier asks if they're dating, and Yuri shuts it down instantly, though he's looking a bit stressed. But just as he tries to rest, a shadow materializes. It's Asana, his personal scout, and she's got the intel of the year. She's found the stranger. This mysterious dude is deep in orc territory. But here's the kicker: he's in captivity. Yuri's face goes pale. Is he working with the orcs? Asana warns him to be careful. The guy might be a prisoner, but he's there for a purpose. And miles away in a dark dungeon, the stranger finally lifts his head. His eyes aren't reflecting the torchlight. They're glowing with an ancient, terrifying fire. The Black Dog might have cleared the canyon, but something way more dangerous is waking up in the dark. The stranger's eyes were glowing in that dungeon. And back at the command tent, the gears in Yuri's head are spinning faster than a GPU on overclock. He's staring at the tactical map like it's a high-stakes game of 4D chess, wondering if this mysterious prisoner is playing the orcs or getting played. Asana is standing in the shadows, looking like she just walked off a ninja movie set, asking if she should dig deeper. But our boy Yuri, he's got that predatory smirk on his face. He's already decided he's going to meet this dude face to face. He figures if they both want the orc leader's head on a platter, they might as well be besties. A man who lets himself get captured either has nothing to lose, or a blade sharp enough to cut through fate. And Yuri wants that power on his side. Asana tries to play the "I must protect you" card, but Yuri hits her with that "I am the danger" energy. He looks her dead in the eye and tells her straight up he didn't hire her as a bodyguard, he handles his own business. It's cold, it's regal, and it's a total alpha move. But then, the prince tries to be a nice boss and offers her a snack like, "Hey, want a biscuit?" But poof, she pulls a Batman and vanishes into the shadows before he can even finish the sentence. Poor Yuri is just standing there holding a plate of dried meat in the dark, muttering to himself about being ghosted. Talk about an awkward workplace interaction. Cut to the campfire, where the blonde knight Jared is out here capping like he's the main character of his own isekai. He's telling the rookies how he heroically saved Yuri from a death knight. Looking all stoic and brave, Yuri is just sitting in the back, chewing his snack and thinking, "Bro, are you for real right now?" We see the actual memory, and it's a total comedy of errors. Jared was literally catching Z's in the dirt while the monster loomed, and Yuri had to Spartan kick him in the ribs just to wake him up. But Yuri's a real one. He plays along and tells the recruits Jared was a huge help. Jared starts sweating, but he leans into the lie, telling them that the scariest enemies are the ones without bodies, like ghosts you can't even hit. But the vibes turn sour real quick. While Jared is busy yapping, a literal demon spawn shaman is manifesting right behind him. This thing is massive, draped in filthy rags, rocking a blindfold, and oozing pure malice from a single glowing red eye. The crazy part? Nobody sees it. To the knights, it's just a quiet night. But to Yuri, it's a horror movie jump scare. He doesn't wait for a psychiatric evaluation, he roars at everyone to draw their steel. Jared is looking around like, "Your Highness, did you forget to take your nap?" While the shaman starts pulsing with a foul purple aura, Yuri isn't playing games. She charges into the dark woods after the invisible scout. It's a high-speed chase through the gnarled trees, the shaman gliding like a vengeful spirit. Yuri corners the beast and ignites his soul blade with a brilliant blue fire, letting out a swing that could level a building. But as the steel hits, the shaman splashes him with some nasty, oily black gunk. It's like living shadow, sizzling against his silver armor. Yuri unleashes a massive mana burst that lights up the sky like a nuke, clearing the area, but the damage is done. That black energy is sticking to his plate like a parasitic symbiote, and Yuri can feel the dread starting to sink in. Hours later, you'd expect the prince to be resting. But nah, he's in the wizard's tent gambling. He's sitting across from Hernando, the camp's top mage, flipping cards, while they discuss the invisible problem. Yuri's acting like it's urgent, but the camera pans down to show a pile of gold coins and ace of spades. Hernando drops the lore bomb. This isn't just a simple cloak. It's forbidden black magic that tethers the orcs to a different plane of existence. It's brittle if you know where to strike, but it's definitely some high-level dark arts. Yuri just takes the wizard's gold and hits him with the ultimate flex. Make sure to call me next time you play. I don't want you losing your money to anyone else. But while the humans are celebrating their card game wins, the orcs are preparing for a massacre. We move deep into the dark woods where the scenery turns straight-up nightmare fuel. Skeletons hanging from trees and human skull totems everywhere. This is the heart of the orc territory, and the leader, Orqua, is sitting on a throne of bleached bones like a mountain of pure hate. The shaman from earlier is there, and he's not just scouting anymore, he's chanting. He raises his staff, and red energy flows into the orc army like liquid fire. Their veins bulge, their eyes glow like embers, and their shadows start twisting into something non-human. They're being buffed by forbidden magic, turning into a tide of unstoppable darkness. The shaman lets out a guttural chant that shakes the earth, and you just know the coming dawn isn't bringing light. It's bringing a war that steel alone might not be able to win. The sun rises over the horizon like a bleeding wound. And trust me, that's not just a poetic metaphor, it's a warning. The air around Karui's camp is so thick with tension, you could cut it with a butter knife, but nobody's making sandwiches today. A Briol soldier steps up, lungs full of iron, and lets out a horn blast that sounds like the literal end of the world. It's go time, boys. Rangit Gustav Granzian is standing there looking like a golden god of war, eyes colder than my ex's heart, while the red banners of the kingdom are snapping in the wind, like they're ready for a fight. No more talking, no more planning, just pure, unadulterated iron and blood. Suddenly, the silence is shattered by a roar. That would make a dragon reconsider its life choices. It's our boy Yuri, standing at the very tip of the spear, screaming advance like a man with absolutely nothing to lose. He's not leading from the back, he's leading from the mouth of the beast. The cavalry kicks into high gear, and the ground starts groaning under the weight of hundreds of armored horses. It's a rhythmic drumbeat of doom. And Yuri is leading the charge on a black stallion looking like a vengeful shadow. It looks like a total landslide victory, right? Wrong. See, these orcs aren't just mindless grunts. They've been practicing their aimbots. High on the ramparts, the orc archers are sweating through their gray skin, pulling back heavy bows with murder in their eyes. They let loose a cloud of feathered death that literally blots out the sun. Yuri looks back and realizes his rear unit is about to get turned into human pincushions. He's screaming for them to turn around, But you can't exactly U-turn a charging warhorse on a dime. The arrows hit home, and it's absolute carnage. 1 second, it's a glorious charge. The next, it's a horror movie. Men getting hit in the neck, horses screaming and blood splattering across visors, like a bucket of red paint. It's a total disaster zone. But then Yuri hears Ragna's voice in his head, cold and demanding. Don't look away. And it clicks. The realization hits him like a freight train. They are the main force. They're the bait. The prince and his men were the distraction to keep the orcs looking the wrong way. And while the orcs are busy reloading, the real storm breaks at the front gate. Rangit Gustav Granzian emerges from the tree line like a boss battle personified, leading the Imperial army. He's got a battering ram that sounds like a mountain splitting in half. When it hits the gate, boom! The timber shatters, splinters fly everywhere, and the Breel Knights pour through the breach like a flood from hell. Back at the rear, Yuri pulls his horse to a stop. The decoy mission is over, and it's time to regroup, or so he thinks. Jose, the mercenary with the I do what I want energy, points a sword at the solid reinforced rear gate. Yuri's like, bro, we don't even have a ram for that wall. But Jose just laughs like a maniac. He hops off his horse, draws a massive two-handed sword, and starts channeling enough blue mana to power a small city. He's walking toward that fortress alone, looking like a total glitch in the Matrix. Yuri's just standing there with a sweat drop on his face, wondering if this dude is for real. And then, absolute cinema. Jose swings that blade. And it's not just steel. It's a literal tidal wave of pure energy. The blue mana pulverizes the gate into fine powder, tossing orcs off the walls like they're made of cardboard. Yuri doesn't waste a second. He spurs his horse through the dust, glowing with soul severance mana, and starts carving through the survivors like a hot knife through butter. Jared is right behind him, yelling at the top of his lungs, and Lorang is jumping off her horse to join the melee. It's a symphony of violence, and the Breel forces are pushing deep into the orcs' guts. But just when they think they've got the momentum, the atmosphere shifts. The air gets heavy and a low growl vibrates through the earth. Out of the central shadows, the Orballs, appear the Vorchief's elite guard. These dudes are absolute units, bulging with unnatural muscle, and eyes glowing a demonic red. One of them swings a cleaver and just casually decapitates a knight, while another slices through a horse and rider in one go. The Breel soldiers are losing their minds, turning to run, and even Jared is frozen in fear as a massive shadow looms over him. But Yuri isn't having it. He launches his horse into a desperate leap, parrying the elite orc's blade just as it's about to turn Jared into a memory. Sparks are flying, Yuri's teeth are grinding, and he roars at Jared to fix his stance. The orc lets out a foul-smelling roar of rage, but Yuri's eyes go ice cold. He's not a prince right now. He's a predator. Jared finally snaps out of it, and in a moment of perfect sync, they unleash a combined mana strike. That slices the elite monster clean in half. They catch their breath for a split second, but Yuri knows the worst is yet to come. He's staring at the massive central tent, and out steps the man himself, Orkwa, the war chief. This guy is a mountain of scarred flesh and bone armor, wearing a prehistoric skull for a helmet, and carrying a freshly decapitated head like it's a souvenir. He stands there amidst his crumbling camp, looking at the Breel army with eyes that promise a massacre. This isn't just a battle anymore, it's a date with death. Orkwa isn't just standing there looking scary. He's a walking natural disaster. The sky above is a bruised purple, choked with smoke, and the metallic tang of blood so thick you can practically taste it. A command rips through the chaos. The camp has fallen push forward. It's not a suggestion. It's a suicide mission, and the Breel boys are diving headfirst into the meat grinder. Tents are getting shredded, the perimeter is toast, and it's pure, unadulterated carnage. Silver-clad knights are throwing themselves at these gray-skinned orc monsters. And every time steel hits hide, it's like a car crash of sparks and screams. Standing in the middle of the spiritual rot is our boy Yuri, looking like a total G in his silver armor. That bat crest on his chest is practically glowing in the firelight. He's not flinching. He's a pillar of icy resolve, while everyone else is losing their minds. He looks at Jared and tells him it's time to dive into the eye of the hurricane. They aren't just walking, they're sprinting through a blur of motion lines, and screams heading straight for the main tent. Yuri's thinking, I felt it too. That jagged, nasty mana scraping against his soul like sandpaper. Suddenly, a Breel soldier gets yeeted through the air like a ragdoll, hitting the dirt with a crunch that'll make your own ribs hurt. Yuri skids to a halt, absorbing a shockwave. That feels like a physical punch to the gut. And then, boom! A massive, taloned foot stomps down, and the ground literally explodes. Out of the dust walks Orkwa, the war chief, looking like a literal nightmare fuel personified. He's got a skull for a helmet, glowing red eyes, and an axe that looks like it could split a moon in half. He lets out a horizontal slash of red energy that carves through the front line like they're made of wet paper. It's a total bloodbath, and Yuri is screaming for everyone to get the hell back. Orkla is standing over a pile of corpses like a demon king, but Yuri isn't backing down. He draws his sword, guilty, and that red gem on the hilt starts pulsing like a heartbeat. He tells everyone to fall back because the third prince is officially done playing nice. His blue eyes are burning with a final boss intensity. That would make a dragon sweat. But just as he's about to go solo, a hand drops on Jared's shoulder. It's Sir Jose, the mercenary commander, rocking that "I've seen it all" energy. He shifts his massive greatsword and tells Yuri he's not fighting this monster alone. Now the real party starts. Yuri is moving like a streak of silver lightning, using those soul severance techniques to turn the air into a web of steel. It's a collision of worlds refined Prince Mana versus raw primal orc power. Yuri is a whirlwind leaping through the air, with red energy trailing behind him like a cape. He knows if he takes even one clean hit, it's game over. He calls out to Jose, who's grinning like a maniac, and the two of them start the most violent dance you've ever seen. Jose is channeling massive waves of blue energy, raining down heavy strikes that actually force Orkwa onto the defensive. But this Orkwa dude is a tank. He catches Yuri's blade with his bare frickin' hand. Blood is spraying, but he doesn't even flinch. He just tosses Yuri away like a used tissue. Yuri hits the ground, but he's smirking. He looks at Orkwa and says, "Shallow." He drops the ultimate flex. "All your elite orc balls? My knights already wiped them out. Now it's just you versus us." Jose lets out a roar of laughter, and they charge back in, hitting Orkwa from both sides in a perfect 1-2 combo. But just when it looks like they've got him cornered, the vibe shifts. The air gets heavy, and a sickening pulse of dark, oily energy erupts from Orkwa's body. A massive purple skeletal aura starts manifesting around him. It's like he just activated a dark magic Susanoo. He moves with a speed that defies physics, bypassing Jose's guard and sending the mercenary flying through the dirt. Yuri screams as Orkwa raises that axe, coiling with violet fire. Jose manages to block it, but his knees are buckling and the ground is cracking under the pressure. Yuri launches himself into a massive horizontal slash, sparks flying as his blade meets the dark-enhanced axe. He's standing firm, but he's looking at the corpses around the field. Dark purple smoke is rising from the dead orcs, coiling into a demonic shadow that towers over the entire camp. Yuri's mind is racing. The shaman should have been stopped. So if this dark magic is still flowing, what the hell is actually going on here? The sky above is looking like a straight-up disaster zone. Charcoal and violet clouds ripping apart with jagged veins of lightning. There's no rain yet, just a heavy smell of ozone, and a rhythmic drumming of thunder that sounds like the world is literally having a heart attack. Through the strobe light flashes of the storm, the ground is a mess of craters and ruins, and coming out of the gloom like a total nightmare fuel factory is a phalanx of orcs. These gray-skinned dudes are pure muscle and bad vibes, with glowing red eyes and teeth that have definitely never seen a toothbrush. They aren't just marching, they're prowling, letting out a guttural growl that'll make your ribs vibrate. And leading this squad of uglies? Orkwa himself. This absolute unit is a colossus of sinew and hate, rocking armor made from prehistoric ribcages. He lets out a silent roar, his jaw hanging open like a horror movie prop, and swings that notched axe with the weight of a falling mountain. The impact is insane. Sir Jose, our veteran knight, gets sent reeling like he just got hit by a semi-truck. His silver armor is dented, he's gasping for air, and his sword is vibrating in the mud from the pure force of that strike. Orkwa loomed over him like the literal shadow of death, muscles bulging like coiled pythons as he raises that axe for the finisher. Jose is scrambling in the mud, looking at the game over screen. But then, boom! Zero stay. Leave this to me. Our boy Yuri Briel drops into the fray like a vengeful comet. Clad in that slick black and silver plate armor, he vaults over the defensive line, and Jose's eyes light up with pure hope. The collision is a total fireworks show of sparks. Yuri's moving with that main character energy, using Orkwa's own momentum to pivot like a pro. But Yuri isn't just focused on the big guy. He sees the real problem. In the back line, an orc shaman is weaving some nasty dark arts, hands glowing with a sickly purple light. Yuri lunges, his blade screaming as it pierces through the shaman's magical barrier. He slices across the shaman's torso and dark, viscous blood splatters the parched ground. But just when you think it's over, the vibes get weird. Yuri's eyes shrink as a freezing, necrotic burn seeps into his soul. From the shaman's blood, a dark, shadowy form starts rising, something way more malevolent than a regular orc. A tendril of shadow lashes out, impaling Yuri's hand and lifting him off his feet. Yuri's thinking, wait, is this sorcery? But before he can react, the world starts warping. He's falling into a sea of shadows, drowning in a kaleidoscope of dark energy. A massive blood-red eye stares down at him with infinite malice, and then the past comes back to haunt him. A man in a suit and tie, a ghost from a life Yuri lived 1,000,000 years ago, appears, whispering, "Why are you the only one alive?" Suddenly, he's surrounded by dozens of ghosts from a kingdom that doesn't exist anymore, all screaming that everything is his fault. They're calling him a disgrace, a failure, a bastard pulling at his armor and dragging him into the abyss. But Yuri? He isn't having any of it. He doesn't just say it, he feels it in his soul. Bullshit. The energy flares, the illusion cracks, and Yuri's boot hits the ground with the force of an anvil. He turns his back on those ghosts, his dark cape billowing in the wind. All that talk about fate, he's done with it. He reaches out, and it's like the energy of all those ghosts flows straight into his blade, wreathed in a brilliant sapphire light that cuts through the darkness like a lighthouse. He looks at the cowering shaman and asks the ultimate flex question. What era do you think this is? The shaman tries to run, but Yuri is a blur of steel and blue light. He becomes a dark vortex, launching an attack that shakes the heavens. He strikes from the air, his blade shearing through the dark magic like it's wet paper. The shaman gets absolutely deleted in a burst of energy, and as his broken body hits the dirt, the oppressive weight of the sorcery finally lifts. The enchantment is broken. Yuri's voice roars across the field, and the Breel soldiers go absolutely berserk. They launch a countercharge, smashing into the orc lines like a tidal wave. But Yuri's eyes are searching for one person, Jose. The knight is still cornered by Orqua, and the skeletal monster just took a sword hit to the side without even flinching. Orqua slams a clawed hand into Jose's chest, and the knight is coughing up blood. Orqua raises his axe, grinning like a demon. But Yuri is already on a full-tilt sprint. Stop. Yuri screams, his armor clanking as he becomes a streak of silver and black across the mud. He looks Orqua dead in the eye, seeing his own reflection in the monster's pupil. He isn't running, he's finishing this. With a final surge of strength, Yuri swings his blade, and his shink! A spray of blood obscures the sky as Orqua's entire arm, axe and all, goes flying into the darkness. The monster collapses to his knees, his skeletal frame shuddering in pure shock. Yuri stands over him, cold and calculated, his sword dripping with black ichor. But the party isn't over yet. From the nearby ruins, a massive giant of a man steps out, messy brown hair, a wild beard, and muscles like carved boulders. He isn't attacking, he's smiling. He looks at Yuri and lets out a deep, rumbling laugh, declaring, "You're amazing? I like you." Under the pouring rain, Yuri keeps his guard up, knowing that surviving the ghosts was just the warm-up for whatever this powerhouse wants. The battlefield is a total meat grinder right now, a churning sea of mud and iron, with a smell of ozone and blood is thick enough to choke on. And right in the middle of this absolute chaos, Moyeon-chan is moving like a literal ghost of death. His red robes are soaked in a mix of rain and enemy lifeblood. But he doesn't care. He's swinging his blades in these massive punishing arcs that send orc gore flying across the dirt. He's standing on top of a mountain of corpses, looking like a lone island of eastern steel in a western war. And honestly, it's a systematic slaughter. But just when things couldn't get more intense, a roar rips through the tree line that'll make your soul shiver. Kui, the orc general, has entered the chat. This dude is a mountain of scarred flesh and malice, rocking trophies made of human bone and eyes that glow with a feral red light. He lets out a massive "Deeble Ops" that literally rattles the teeth of the Breel soldiers. He charges like a juggernaut of black iron. But Moyeon-chan, he doesn't even flinch. Before the general can even swing that oversized axe, Moyeon closes the gap with a blur of speed and get this. He grabs Kurui's massive yellowed tusk with his bare hand. The absolute audacity. The surrounding orcs literally freeze in shock. It's a total contest of raw strength. But Moyeon just looks annoyed. He snarls at the monster. "Shut up! You are that punk would inch an even gummy food." Bro is literally settling a grudge over a missed meal while staring down at Titan. Lieutenant Jared is watching from the sidelines, totally bewildered by Moyeon's rough talk. But Yuri Breel? He's seeing something else. He recognizes that Eastern swordsmanship, the way the mana flows through the air like a symphony of steel. He's seen this in ancient scrolls, or maybe a memory from a past life. But before Yuri can even say the name, Moyeon finishes the show. He unleashes a rapid-fire strike, so fast the blades vanish into silver trails. There's a blinding flash of white energy, kamoom, and the orc general is absolutely deleted. Moyeon just casually walks away from the explosion, holding Kurui's severed head by the top knot, like he's just finished a boring chore. Jared and Yuri are in total awe, and they immediately drop into a deep, formal bow. Yuri calls him out, one of the famed 10 strong of the continent. "Aren't you the stranger?" Moyeon's eyes narrow, sensing a trap, but Yuri isn't playing. He knows Moyeon is hunting the orc king, Okua, and offers him a deal to join forces, as the remaining orcs realize their boss is dead, and start running for their lives. The Breel knights move in to finish the job. But guys, the vibe gets dark real quick. When they enter the orc camp, it's a straight-up house of horrors. They find survivors who've been twisted by black magic, fused with animals, or left as empty shells begging for death. It's a grim reminder of the monsters they're dealing with, and even the battle-hardened soldiers are left shaking. But wait, the mood flips 180 degrees back at the camp. Our legendary stranger has turned into a total diva. One minute, he's a lethal predator, and the next, he's acting like a spoiled brat, flipping tables because the soup is too salty, and demanding 5 side dishes. Yuri and Jared are losing their minds trying to keep him happy. Yuri finally goes to confront him by the fire, but Moyoung's aura shifts instantly. He grabs his sword hilt and gets dangerously close, asking Yuri how he cut down the shaman earlier. Depending on your answer, you might die by my hand. Moyoung whispers and suddenly his pronunciation is perfect. No more clumsy dialect. Yuri stays cool and explains his mana method, passed down from his ancestor Eric Briel. The moment that name drops, Moyoung staggers back like he's been hit by lightning. His eyes go wide, his hand starts trembling, and he drops into a deep martial arts salute. Turns out, Yuri is the descendant of the heaven-felling sword master, a legend who saved Moyoung's sect back in the day. Moyoung goes full fanboy, explaining that his sect exists to purge evil, and he's here to slay the ominous star in the west. Yuri, being the strategic genius he is, sees an opening. He offers Moyoung an honorary knighthood, unlimited meals, and a cozy spot. In a major merchant guild after the war, Moyoung's eyes practically turn into gold coins. He's totally sold. But he's got one final condition that catches everyone off guard. He slaps Yuri on the shoulder and declares, "From now on, call me Master Moyoung Chan. As of today, you're an outer disciple of the Cheongsang sect." Our boy Yuri just stood there, the future king of Briel, suddenly realizing he's become the student of the most chaotic man on the planet. The gears of fate have definitely shifted, and things are about to get wild. Moyoung-chan is standing there, with enough main character energy to power a small city, looking down at Yuri with a smirk that says, "I'm doing you a massive favor, bro," with a sudden dramatic chest thump. That sends his brown robes fluttering. He drops the bombshell. From this moment on, Yuri is officially a disciple of the Azure Saint sect. Yuri is just buffering. He stared down entire orc battalions without blinking, but this level of audacity is a total assault on his tactical brain. He's sweating bullets, trying to find the logic, while Moyoung just lets out a boisterous laugh, barking about how he usually charges a premium for taking on students. He tells Yuri to be thankful, looking like he just handed him the keys to the kingdom. Yuri forces out a polite, pained smile, trying to be diplomatic. He mentions he already has a master, the legendary sword ghost, and oh man, the reaction is instant. You can practically see the internal screaming meme on Moyoung's face. A vein pops on his forehead. His aura goes nuclear, and for a second, his eyes wash over into a terrifying white rage. He looks like he's about to fight the air itself, but then he just yells, "Fine, you can just be both of our disciples." Talk about a my way or the highway mentality. He rants about how people would literally give their lives for this opportunity, but then the ego drops, and he gets dead serious. He needs to see the alliance leader, and he's not asking. He reminds Yuri that they have a deal, and he hasn't forgotten for a second. As night falls over the camp, the vibe turns pitch black inside the command tent. The Briol flag is fluttering in the draft, and the shadows are dancing as Moyoung drops. The most cursed info yet. The Orc King, Orkwa, is performing human sacrifices. No cap. The dude is using human lives to fuel dark sorcery. King Ragnar Gustaf Granzien, who looks like a literal golden titan in his white and gold armor, is visibly shaken. Yuri chimes in, realizing that's why the orcs were moving with such insane, unnatural speed in the last fight. It's not just muscles, it's a corruption of nature. Moyoung is still salty though. He grumbles about how his original plan to sneak in as a sacrifice was totally ruined by Yuri's rescue mission. Talk about a weird flex, but okay. But Ragnar has another headache for Yuri. He's caught some half-orcs and has no clue what to do with them. They're neither enemy nor kin. Yuri heads down to the prison sector, where the air smells like damp earth and rusted iron. He walks right into a heated argument, where a frustrated knight is screaming about how they should keep the half-orcs as interpreters to get a strategic edge. But Sir Graham is standing his ground, pointing at the human survivors, who are huddled in the corners with hollow eyes. Yuri steps into the light, his armored boots echoing, and his voice is cold as ice. He asks the knight one simple question. Can you trust these things with your back? When the blood starts flowing, the knight shuts up real quick. Yuri isn't done. He kneels down to a survivor named Jane, and the way her eyes are filled with pure trauma is heartbreaking. She tells him the nightmare, how the orcs treated humans like insects, ripping them apart piece by piece for entertainment. Her brother. She had to watch him get dismantled, while those monsters laughed. The rage in the room is palpable. Yuri stands up, and suddenly, he isn't just the commander. He's the Prince of Briol. He declares that no strategic advantage is worth the justice owed to these survivors. His order? Absolute termination. Every single half-orc is to be wiped out. No mercy, no exceptions. The next morning, the sun hits the watchtower. But there's no peace. The lookout spots orc flags on the horizon. These aren't just scouts. It's a delegation riding massive scaly reptilian beasts with glowing red eyes. They're at the gates, claiming they want to negotiate. Ragnar is suspicious as hell. Shh. Hand resting on his sword, but he orders the gates opened. The massive wooden doors creak, the chains rattle, and as the orc messenger rides in, with a wicked tusked grin, the air gets thick enough to choke on. The parley has begun, and things are about to get incredibly spicy. The massive wooden doors groan open, and there they are, a phalanx of orc messengers, standing like gray stone statues. These dudes are absolutely jacked, with skin the color of a thundercloud and muscles that look like they were carved out of granite. They're just standing there in the biting wind, holding their tribal flags with an intensity that says, "We aren't here for a chat, bro." Sir Graham is gripping his sword so hard his knuckles are white, his silver armor polished but scarred from a dozen fights. Everyone is holding their breath, waiting to see if this day ends with a handshake or a bloodbath. Inside the command tent, the vibe is even more suffocating. Yuri is standing stiff as a board, while Prince Ragnar, looking like a literal golden god in his white and gold armor, is staring down at a piece of parchment like it's a death sentence. Yuri breaks the silence, asking what's really going on, and Ragnar looks up with eyes that have seen way too much. He asks Yuri a heavy question. "Why do you think I'm the commander?" Yuri tries to play it safe, mentioning Radna's legendary war skills, but Ragnar shuts that down real quick. This isn't about talent, fam. This is dirty, high-stakes imperial politics. Ragnar drops the ultimate bombshell. He's on the Emperor's naughty list. To the public, he's the hero, the lion of the Empire. But behind the scenes, the Emperor is playing 4D chess with Ragnar's life. Ragnar explains that when things in the capital seem logical, that's when you need to watch your back the most. Yuri's brain starts connecting the dots, and it's a total nightmare scenario. In his past life, Ragnar took the fall for the Alliance's failure and lost everything. The realization hits Yuri like a truck. The Alliance army wasn't built to win. It's a sacrificial lamb. Ragnar is being set up to fail so the Emperor can seize total control. He's not a leader. He's a disposable pawn. Yuri is fuming, his jaw clenched, as Ragnar hands him the tactical orders. One look at the paper and Yuri's face goes pale. It's a total scam. Logistical impossibilities, reinforcements that are never coming lumber. It's a death warrant disguised as a strategy. It's a filthy, low-down scheme to make sure nobody comes back alive. But instead of folding, Yuri's rage turns into cold, hard determination. He looks Ragnar in the eye and says, "So the war just got a little harder? Big deal. We're winning this and going home." Ragnar lets out a boisterous ha-ha-ha, totally vibing with Yuri's main character energy. If the world wants them dead, they'll just have to fight the whole world. Outside, the orcs are losing their patience, baring their tusks and growling like hungry wolves. But then, the tent flap bursts open, and Yuri Briel steps out looking like a localized natural disaster. He's surrounded by a dark, smoky aura of pure killing intent. One orc reaches for him, and Yuri just spits out, "Shut up, you bastards." Shh. In a literal blink of an eye, his sword is out, a flash of blue energy, a scream of air, and Yuri dances through the line like a shadow. He doesn't even look back, as all three elite orc messengers drop dead in perfect unison. The Briol Knights are losing their minds. One blow for 3 orcs? Our boy is only 18, and he's already moving like a god of war. Ragnar watches from the distance, half impressed and half terrified. He wonders how Yuri got this strong, this fast. But there's no time for fanboying Ragnar calls. In his top mage, Eisen, this old-timer looks like he stepped out of a legend, and Ragnar gets straight to the point. "Tell me about black magic." Eisen mentions it's a dead art, but Ragnar isn't buying it. He knows Orkwa is using human sacrifices to buff his troops. Eisen's face goes grave as he mentions the ancient kingdom of Adalvin and the legend of a product of black magic, the Death Knight Gert, a skeletal rider with glowing red eyes, just waiting in the mist. Eisen drops the final piece of the puzzle. Orkwa isn't just stalling for time. He's trying to summon something ancient and terrifying from a hidden dungeon beneath their very feet. As they speak, deep below the earth, far beneath the marching boots and the blood-soaked grass, a pale, sickly glow flickers in the darkness. Suddenly, a massive burst of brilliant blue energy erupts, shaking the foundations of the world. The ancient stones groan as the magic surges. The ritual is active, and the nightmare is just getting started. The sky above the rolling hills is a beautiful shade of cerulean, but don't let that peaceful view fool you. The vibes on the ground are heavier than a Gym Bros PR. You've got the rhythmic thud of hooves and the clatter of silver plate armor as the Alliance army marches forward, smelling like sweat and impending doom. At the front, our boy Yuri Briol is looking like a straight-up menace on his black stallion, his silver and black armor glistening in the sun. He's got that "don't talk to me" focus. But the silence is broken when Gerald rides up with some straight-up trash news. Apparently the supply lines for Ballshot have been clipped. The enemy's light cavalry is playing hit and run, and Gerald's face says it all. If the soldiers don't eat, they don't fight. Yuri's brain is going into overdrive, calculating rations and realizing that if this drags on, it's game over. He knows Orkla is the linchpin of the enemy defense, and if they don't strike soon, the Alliance is going to be a sitting duck in a war of attrition. But just as Yuri is stressing about bread and salted meat, the world decides to throw a massive curveball. The ground starts bucking like a wild bronco. Yuri's horse is panicking, and the earth is groaning with a vibration that feels less like an earthquake and more like a god waking up from a nap. Yuri screams for everyone to get off their horses. Just as the ground literally splits open, massive ancient stone towers burst through the dirt, like they're breaching the surface of the sea, followed by a gargantuan fortress of black stone. It's a total landscape-changing event, fam. And who do we find waiting at the gates? Prince Ragnar, looking as royal as ever, with his red cape catching the wind. His mages are already on the scene, but they're stumped. The mana coming off these ruins is alien, ancient, and totally off the charts. Yuri, being the absolute unit he is, offers to scout the inside. Ragnar gives the green light, but insists on sending his own elite Imperial Knights along. Led by a scarred vet named Laudain, Yuri's internal sus meter is hitting the red A. Is Ragnar helping, or is he just making sure Yuri doesn't find any legendary loot first? The scouting party reaches a massive stone door, covered in weird runes. Laudain tries to push it like he's at the gym, but it won't budge an inch. Then our MC steps up. The moment Yuri's hand touches the stone, it's like completing a high-voltage circuit. The runes flare silver, and the door doesn't just open. It literally dissolves into mist. Main character privileges are real, people. Inside, it's darker than a black hole, and the team is completely unprepared for a dungeon crawl. But Yuri, he just taps into his mana and sparks the wall's sconces. In a second, ghostly white fire races down the hall, lighting the place up like a stadium. They move deeper, stepping over brittle bones and ancient skulls, until they find a skeleton knight leaning against a door. This dude died protecting whatever is behind that gate, and he's still clutching a rusted sword. Gerald tries to mana hack the door, but it's a total fail. Yuri decides it's time to head back and rethink the plan. But the moment he turns his back, snatch. The skeleton's hand snaps shut around Yuri's arm, like an iron vice. Ghostly blue flames erupt in the skull's eye sockets, and a massive shockwave of magic blasts the other knight's back. Yuri is suddenly hit with a psychic assault. Images of fire, screaming orcs, and an ancient war tearing through his brain. A voice whispers through the void of his mind, heavy with the weight of eternity. Remember? This is salvation. The light goes blindingly white, leaving our boy trapped in a vision that's about to change everything. The light is blinding, fam. Our boy Yuri is straight up tripping through time, caught in a psychic link that's hitting harder than a final boss's ultimate move. Inside his mind, a single word is etched in glowing white. Remenmir. The magical resonance is vibrating through his bones, and Yuri's face is twisted in pain as he's pulled into the memories of that creepy skeleton knight. This isn't just a flashback, people, it's a full-on soul download. Suddenly, the world ignites. Yuri opens his eyes, but he's not in the dusty ruins anymore. He's standing on a massive cliff, looking out over the kingdom of Adelbane in its prime. No decay, no smells of death, just 4K high fantasy vibes with spires reaching for the clouds. Yuri looks at his hands and realizes he's a literal ghost, haunting the past. He's witnessing a world that's been dead for a decade. Then, he hears Ida shout, full of pure energy. A young apprentice with a green cape comes sprinting across a field, clutching a massive book like it's the last copy of a limited edition manga. He's running toward his master, a man who looks like he was chiseled out of granite and eats dumbbells for breakfast. This is the OG Orc Hunter Master, and he's got that tired dad energy as he asks the kid where he's been. The kid is all smiles, bragging about reading his grimoire, but Yuri is getting a massive case of the chills. He looks at the boy's height, his armor, the way he tilts his head, and the realization hits like a truck. This kid is the skeleton knight from the ruins. Yuri follows them like a silent guardian, watching the master and apprentice bond. It's actually kind of wholesome, reminding Yuri of his times with Bernardier, and we even get a little chibi Bernard in Yuri's head screaming, "Your hardness." But the vibes shift real quick when the master pulls out a glowing red gem. This is the indication of an orc hunter, the literal license to hunt. But the kid isn't hyped. He's got a look of deep, crushing doubt. He asks why they have to kill the orcs at all. Why can't they just talk it out? The master lets out a sigh that carries the weight of the world and drops a truth bomb that's about to break the internet. Orcs are actually humans. Yeah, you heard that right. A long time ago, some edgy noble obsessed with murder found a loophole in the law. A black mage whispered in his ear. The king said don't kill humans, but he never said anything about turning them into something else. Yuri watches in horror as the vision shows people being mutated into hulking mindless beasts through black magic. The orcs aren't just monsters, they're the cursed descendants of human victims. Yuri is shaking. Every orc he's ever slain was part of this tragic 1,000-year-long massacre. The master explains that because there was no cure, the kingdom gave up on them. The only salvation left for an orc hunter to give is a clean death. The weight of this duty is heavy. But before Yuri can process it, the memory starts to warp. The sky turns pitch black. The beautiful fields of Adalbane are replaced by a crumbling, burning cathedral. This is the end. 10 years ago. The master is trying to charge into a sea of orcs alone to buy time, while the apprentice begs him to stay. It's heartbreaking, fam. The master tells the boy to survive and carry the wish of their generation. Before running off to his final stand, we see a flash of the master's body impaled by a dozen spears. He died a total legend. The apprentice doesn't just run, though. He channels every last drop of his life force into his staff, sealing the orc hunter's secrets and techniques into the ruins for someone in the future to find. As the spirit begins to fade, he turns his head and looks directly at Yuri. The boy's ghost drops one final chilling warning. Watch out for the devils, Grimo. Boom! The crystal on the staff shatters, and Yuri's eyes snap open. He's back in his body, gasping for air on the cold floor of the ruins. Lodane and Gerald are hovering over him, looking worried sick. The skeleton is gone, and the massive stone doors are shattered into pieces. Yuri tries to play it cool, but his mind is racing with the knowledge of the past. Before he can even stand up, the whole place starts to buckle. Dust is raining from the ceiling and the ground is groaning. Gerald thinks it's an earthquake, but Yuri's senses are dialed up to 11 thanks to his new hunter instincts. This isn't the earth moving, it's the rhythm of 1,000 feet. From the shadows of the entrance, we see a muscular, gray jaw and rows of sharp teeth. The orc horde is here, and they're flooding the chamber like a literal tide of death. Yuri drops into a combat stance, his eyes burning with resolve. He's the last orc hunter now, and he knows exactly what he has to do. It's time to give these monsters the only thing he has left. It's time for salvation. The air is thick with the copper tang of blood. And damp earth, fam. Deep in the shadows, a massive orc soldier is flexing muscles like sun-warmed serpents, just waiting for the signal to start the massacre. Suddenly, the silence is deleted. An Imperial soldier screams, Orsia Chak, and the ruins turn into a literal nightmare. These aren't just foot soldiers, they're riding spiked Komodo drakes that are clawing through the dirt like something out of a horror flick. The Imperial Knights are straight up shaking in their boots, wondering if they walked right into a trap. But while everyone else is panicking, our boy Yuri Briel is standing there like a pillar of ice. He doesn't even flinch. He's scanning the horizon, realizing the orcs are here to desecrate this ancient hunter's dwelling. Yuri drops a hand to the floor, feeling the vibrations like he's got seismic sense. He counts 10 riders a scouting party, meant to test their gates before the real slaughter begins. His men want to retreat, but Yuri just smirks. He roars out a command, and his hidden units emerge from the shadows like surprise suckers. Yuri isn't just fighting hard, he's fighting smart. He kneels by the skeleton of a long-dead orc hunter and grabs a glowing red gem, the hunter's proof. It's an instant soul download, people. Decades of specialized orc-slaying tactics are being uploaded directly into Yuri's brain. He sees the battlefield in 4K now. As the orcs charge across the bridge, thinking they've got the advantage, Yuri triggers the ruins' ancient defense system. The ground pulses with a violent red light, and hidden traps explode under the drakes' feet. It's a total Uno reverse card. Confusion turns to carnage. Yuri's knights charge into the smoke, picking off the reeling orcs like wolves in a henhouse. It's a symphony of steel on bone, and the ruins are being painted an orcish green. But then the big boss enters the chat, a massive elite orc warrior towering over everyone, with a giant double-headed axe. Lunges at Yuri with a roar that shakes the tower. To any normal soldier, Yuri looks like a goner, but our prince is playing on a higher FPS. He dodges the massive axe with surgical precision, sliding his blade between the orc's ribs. No need for flashy moves, just pure cold efficiency. He transitions into a low stance, his sword trailing blue energy, as he severs the beast's arm, and finishes the job with a lethal slash to the throat. The elite hits the dirt, and Yuri stands over the corpse, like the absolute legend he's becoming. He's the hunter of Adalbane now, and he's claiming that legacy. Later that night, the smoke is still settling. As Yuri reports to the blonde commander, he mentions the Devil's Grimoire, that creepy book from the vision. But the commander is totally clueless. This mystery is getting deeper than a conspiracy thread. As Yuri leaves the tent, he runs into Rodain, a knight who's way too curious about Yuri's love life. Rodain's trying to push the Imperial Princess on him, but Yuri knows better that girl is a political leash. Yuri panics and blurs out that he's already got a girlfriend named Sibylla. Sorry, Sibylla, you're officially a plot device now. Rodain laughs it off and starts talking about how he's going to propose to his own girl after the war. And Yuri's internal alarms start screaming. Bro, did you just drop a death flag on the battlefield? Yuri tells him to shut it, but it's too late. A flaming barrel of explosives screams through the sky and levels a tent right behind them. Yuri gives him the ultimate "I told you so" look as the camp goes up in flames. The night is far from over, and the hunter's blade is already out for blood.